Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Fraud is bad. Nick Shirley, you know what I'm saying? I guess he in Chicago, talking to a young lady about what's going on in Chicago with they fraud, because immigrants, they come into America and they're doing the right thing. Not all of them, but the majority of them, they're not doing the right thing. They're not contributing. They're taking from America. They're not giving back to America. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with this with Nick Shirley. Yep, let's continue.
Their $25 billion budget to...
She knows everything about the Chicago migrant crisis and what is going on here. And overall, what are you guys seeing here in Chicago with the migrant crisis?
We want them to go home. We want ICE to come here and use their $25 billion budget to take care of this problem and get these people back to where they came from. The citizens of Chicago cannot afford to continue to subsidize this human trafficking operation.
If ICE wanted to, could they come in here and take the migrants away, or is it?
Yes and no. So we're a sanctuary city. Our sanctuary city ordinance prevents the Chicago Police Department from working directly with ICE. So if they catch an illegal, they can't say this person is illegal. ICE, come get them. So this is why we have people who are here illegally committing crimes over and over again without any federal intervention.
And have there been a lot of cases where migrants have committed some pretty grievous crimes here?
Yes, the most egregious crime that I've seen committed thus far is a woman was raped at 7 p.m. on the Chicago sidewalk by a migrant as she got off of the train. And I want to point out that these are not migrants. These are illegal immigrants. Our grandparents were migrants when they left the South to come to Chicago. A migrant is someone who's within the country who moves from one space to another space for economic purposes. These people are illegal immigrants because they chose to be illegally trafficked here. So I just want to make that straight. These are not migrants.
Yeah, and why do you think the news and why do you think they're always saying migrants, or now they're saying even newcomers?
Because they're trying to run a psych op on the people to make us believe that the crimes that they've committed are not as bad as they actually are. So you call them a migrant, you're thinking, oh, well, they're just moving from one section to another section. No, these are illegal immigrants. They chose to bypass our system and be illegally trafficked into our country.
And people like you, people that live here in Chicago, are the majority of Chicago's people, are they welcoming these people, or are they wanting
Absolutely not. We wanted them out. So
good morning, Texas. Good morning.
To make a referendum asking Chicago, should Chicago remain a sanctuary city, yes or no? The city council declined to give us that referendum because they knew that if they were to put that on the ballot, that there would be a resounding no, go home. Again, we are taking tax funds away from our people, and we're giving it to people who don't deserve it, who have never paid any taxes here, who have never battled the system, people who have never voted. Our people have been here for a long time paying into the tax base legally, and now we're seeing that criminality is rewarded via tax dollars in Chicago.
How much money is a person like you, or the average Chicago person, having to pay in taxes here? How much of your dollars are being sent to taxes?
Well, I'm not sure, because we get property tax bills, and we are paying.
Once again, I'm from Chicago, and me and my wife, we moved out of Chicago. It's been about going on 2.5 years. So we dodged that type of bullet on the real. That's crazy what's going on. And I was a barber, I was security, I was a bartender. I did a lot in Chicago. And after COVID, things just fell apart. That's one of the reasons why I got red pill too, because of COVID. They told us I couldn't go outside, stay in the house. You gotta get the job. You don't get the job, you lose your job. So I was like, forget it. Stepped down from being head of security at my job. Went back to cutting hair, and then cutting hair wasn't the same. So I had to go back to working in the warehouse. That's what I'm doing now, working in the warehouse. Other than that, it's cool. Let's continue.
A bag tax of 7 cents per bag. There's just a lot of different tax structures here. Chicago's a very expensive city, but I'll give you one example. The opioid crisis has decimated Chicago, and that's because Chicago is the epicenter of the Mexican cartel.
I live in Rockford now.
They chose the west side of Chicago specifically for their headquarters for 3 reasons. One, all roads in America lead to the west side of Chicago. That's why we have the Loop, which is on the west side. We also have a high Black male unemployment rate in the fact that we're a sanctuary city. So because we are selling over $1 billion of heroin a year from our neighborhoods, 90% of the heroin in this country is trafficked off the west side of Chicago. That creates a narco kind of culture. So we got a settlement from the opioid companies, and they were supposed to build rehabs and rebuild communities that were decimated by the opioid crisis.
I've been to New York too, and man, Times Square is nice, and Central Park is definitely huge. It's definitely huge.
Were decimated by the opioid crisis. Well, our mayor took that $51 million and he gave it to the illegals. So now citizens who are still suffering with addiction didn't get the services that they were promised.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you think with the narcos and with the cartel being here in Chicago, do you think a lot of these people that are coming over are being told to go to Chicago so they can work with the cartel?
Absolutely. They're importing their own workforce. Because what happened is the reason that El Chapo is in prison right now at this very moment is because there was a Black guy on the west side of Chicago who was caught with drugs. The Chicago Police Department said, "Where did you get these drugs from?"
Syracuse? Okay.
He said, "I bought them from these twins over in Little Village." So the Chicago Police Department goes over, they start to investigate the twins in Little Village, where these were actually El Chapo's number 1 and number 2 guys in the United States. So this goes from a simple drug possession case to an international drug trafficking case. And now El Chapo is in Supermax. And so they want to import a workforce that will not be compelled to tell what happened, because those people are not trying to go home. When you're employing Americans, of course they're going to say whatever they have to say to go back to their families. These people have no ties here. So I believe that this is just a new imported workforce to work in the street culture.
Yeah, because a lot of these migrants, they come over, they commit a crime, they're released, and then they're ghost criminals and they can change their name.
Voila. And go to another space and do it over and over again.
And are a lot of the migrants here making up social security card numbers to work? And are they receiving social security cards?
No. Well, they've caught them with fake social security cards.
See what I'm saying? Fraud is bad, Democrats, you liberals. Fraud is bad. These was coming in. They coming in, taking up the resources and sending it right back overseas. I said they send overseas for betterness. They send it to the terrorist group, funding terrorists. That's crazy. It's not cool. They draining us. They not helping us. Good morning. Good morning. Right. LOL. Yeah.
There was this one guy they caught. They said that they found his card, and in the back it had like the stick. They had the watermark where he had like literally printed it offline. So they're doing everything. They've already found illegal ID meals over in different neighborhoods. So this is an ongoing thing. We've been a sanctuary city for a long time. So we, in a way, have perfected falsifying documents, getting people who are here illegally ways to work. And so people know, because we already have that infrastructure to serve them, this is the best place for them to come.
And with the Chicago being a sanctuary city, the 3 years before this, before Joe Biden became president, would you guys see migrants outside panhandling? Oh,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is brand new for us. I think that Jim Crow Joe has not only decimated the country, but especially Chicago, because we are being flooded with these people. And our mayor said yesterday that we could take up to 400,000 of them.
And can you guys take up 400?
Absolutely not. We don't have space for them. We have people here in Chicago who have been waiting on the Chicago Housing Authority on their waiting list for over 20 years. The Chicago Housing Authority is hoarding over $1 billion of federal housing funds, while our people are parked in Iowa and Wisconsin and all these other spaces. So until we can figure out how to get our people back in the housing that they were promised, we have no space, no vacancy for anybody.
Vote red. Don't be misled. Vote red, y'all. Stop playing around. Get off that plantation. Democrat Party don't care about y'all or us at all. They care about power. And that's it.
Else in Chicago. Our people need to be housed.
Yeah, I've heard that. Obviously, there's spent over $300 million on the migrants.
Yes, illegal immigrants. These are not migrants.
Pardon. Illegal immigrants. And I was talking to some other people, and they said that South Side Chicago, a lot of other places were also always asking for money.
Yes.
And they could never get it, but then there was $300 million brought up out of thin air, right?
Yes. We've been hearing my entire life that the city doesn't have money, that the resources are not there, that they have to figure out ways to pay for things, and they pull money out of the thin air for people who are not supposed to be here. It's not fair. And I think that is really what's going to turn Chicago politically, because they can see how these liberal policies are affecting us in ways that are deeply disrespectful.
Yeah, with what you said right there, do you think more people are going to be switching from blue to red this year more than ever?
Absolutely. We have old people, young people, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and other. All of these people have decided that what has happened in Chicago is way too disrespectful. I think that Mayor Brandon Johnson is the greatest recruiter for the Republican Party in the country right now.
And do people like the mayor?
No, not at all. His approval rating is 23%, and I want people to know that Black Chicago did not put him in office. A lot of times people say, well, Chicago voted via race, and you get what you vote for. Brandon Johnson won 0 Black wards during the primary. So this is not our fault. This is the North Side and the progressives and that white liberal scene that put him into play. And no, we've never been disrespected like this in our lives.
Who voted for him?
So the second time during the general election, that's when he did get the votes, and that's only because he went against Paul Vallis. Paul Vallis is the former CEO of the Chicago Public Schools. He was the CEO in the 90s. So people who have kindergarten, 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, or high school diploma signed by Paul Vallis were not voting for Paul Vallis. We see him as the catalyst that began to crash the Chicago Public Schools. So it's not necessarily that people wanted Brandon, but they were voting against Vallis.
Voting against Vallis. And then you think that, I always wondered, with these cities that are letting all these migrants in between, like Gavin Newsom, obviously Joe Biden, people like Mayor Johnson, do you think they're making money from potentially cartel members? Or
so I brought General Flynn on my show. I had a very popular radio show, Black Excellence Hour. We're still live, but I was on WVON here in the city. WVON is the oldest Black radio station in the country. The call letters stand for Voice of the Negro. Martin Luther King had a show on there, Barack Obama, Brandon Johnson, and me. So this is a very politically influential station. I brought General Flynn on my show, General Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor, and he told us here in Chicago that our government has been compromised by the cartel. They have been paid off. They are a $1 billion criminal organization, and of course we could come to a conclusion that they're paying for this. This is a town where money talks, and absolutely, and I believe that's why when we asked the city council to give us the sanctuary city ordinance, the aldermen voted no. Now, we didn't ask them to take it away. We asked them for the choice to vote on it, and they wouldn't even give us the choice. And I believe that's because they've been compromised.
They've been compromised from inside. Yes. How can you drain the swamp, to say?
We are going red. You understand? We're done. We said that the blues gave Chicago the blues. We are done with those people. We are moving on. We want people to put on their gym shoes, tie them up real tight, and run to the right. Because if we don't, we're going to be on reservations. This is the last hurrah for us and our people. We have to understand that when Rahm Emanuel, who is really the villain of the story, Rahm Emanuel in 1998, became vice chair. No, at first he was working with Bill Clinton. He and Andrew Cuomo, who's then HUD secretary, worked to manipulate the standards for HUD in Chicago when it came to CHA. So Chicago demolished 99% of their housing projects, displacing over 100,000 people. They got $1 billion.
Amen to that, Jerry.
From the feds to rebuild, but CHA wanted the money and let those people leave. So we lost 100,000 with public housing. Then during the housing crisis, Ron became mayor of Chicago because while the projects were being torn down, he left the White House, came to Chicago, and became vice chair of the Chicago Housing Authority to oversee those demolitions. Then he became mayor of Chicago, and during the housing crisis, he brought those same cranes to middle-class Black Chicago and demolished our housing stock. So now we lost another, let's say, 150,000 people. So this has been an ongoing move to move Black Chicago out, because we know that Black people, we are the second largest ethnicity in this country. We are not immigrants. All of us can vote. All of us are qualified to vote, and they know the power of the Black vote here. We're the reason that Richard Nixon was president in 1968. And I think they've been working very hard since that 68 election to weaken our vote.
Why do they want to push you guys out? What would be the reason for that?
Because we can't be contained. Right now, the whole conversation is around immigrants. Every time someone says immigrants, they're saying not you Black people, not you Negroes, because we're not immigrants. And so now the move with the labor movement has been
Totally aware. Good morning. Good morning.
And so once the wages were raised,
balls deep. Good morning.
In our blue collar town, now they don't want to pay the $15. Now they don't want to pay the $20. So
welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. Good morning.
To earn those wages and bring in new people who will work for a lower wage.
And then you have to have papers, right?
Voila, yes.
Have to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm. And so now you see there are multiple factories closing. There are multiple factories closing around the city. Once they raised the minimum wage, and then when Trump was in office, he raided all the factories, got them out, put Americans in. Now they're closing.
Brian, good morning.
You see, this is all corporate. The corporate world married the government to disenfranchise Black people and stagnate our wealth because we're citizens.
Sounds like it's a bunch of planned chaos that's going on right now. And today we went to a Home Depot, and in Home Depot there was one side that was filled with immigrants, illegal immigrants who had just came over, and the other side was Mexican Americans, and then between us was the police. Do you think there's going to be a new, like a division between races now, like a new racism that almost comes up from this crisis that they're creating?
I wouldn't say it's a racism, because one thing that I've seen, I haven't seen my city this united since the 96 Bulls. Everybody is against this. Again, every race, socioeconomic class, we have all concluded that we don't want this anymore. However, I think that there could be a...
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
I don't want to call it xenophobic because that's like too strong of a word, but it's going to be Americans versus everybody else.
Yeah.
I think that they thought that the Hispanic community up here would welcome these people with open arms, and they did not. It's funny because, again, I was on the Black station, and the Mexican guy called. He said, P-Ray, I want to let you all know on behalf of Mexican Chicago, we're not okay with this either, and we're standing 10 toes down. Whenever you guys have something, we're coming too, cuz. I'm like, all right, come through. Another guy called, P-Ray, I'm calling on behalf of Polish Chicago. We don't like it either. We want to let our Black brothers in Chicago know that we stand with them too. So we are united against this. So I think that on the American side, we haven't had as many racial issues because we now know that we're in the middle of an invasion, and we have to push all of that to the side for now. Once we get this going, then we can get back to whatever our beefs are, but in the meantime, in between time, one flag, one people, one nation under God, and we got to save ourselves, because these people, we do not know who's here. And it's not just the Venezuelans. Al-Qaeda put out an article in 2021 because they do their publications, and they talked about doing lone wolf attacks, and they talked about getting trucks, driving into people, blowing it up. But the backdrop for that was the Chicago skyline. That was the picture that they used in the article. So we've already been identified as an Al-Qaeda target, and now we have an open border, and we have a magnet on the Sears Tower, or now the Willis Tower, that's attracting illegal immigration from all over the world to the city of Chicago, because they know once they get here, we're going to...
It's still the Sears Tower to me. Forget that Willis Tower trash. I grew up knowing it as the Sears Tower, and also shopping at Sears stores as well in Chicago.
House you, we're going to feed you, we're going to clothe you, we're going to give you medical care, we're going to take care of your children, we're going to give you a stipend, we're going to let you drive, we're going to give you a cell phone. If you're some angry person, on the other side of the earth, why wouldn't I break my back to get to Chicago?
It makes literally perfect sense why anyone would want to come to Chicago, and specifically in America. in general with what's going on. And so with the migrants, and they're able to get these cards, they're able to drive, and I imagine that they obviously don't have licenses because they're not American citizens, but they're able to drive here on the streets. And
yeah, so they're allowing them to drive. They don't have insurance. They don't have licenses. Here in Chicago, in order to graduate from the Chicago public high schools, you have to take driver's ed. So we know how to drive here, right? They teach you all the Chicago driving standards, how to parallel park. And we have this thing called dibs. So like when it snows, you can like put your chair outside, and that's like your parking space. I mean, we have our little Chicago driving culture. They don't know. They don't know. They don't speak English. They don't know how to read the signs. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
But the city, instead of them saying it's dangerous, we don't want them to drive, now they're figuring out ways to get driver's licenses for non-citizens. How can this work? Every aspect of our safety and security has been compromised by this.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make any sense. And I can only conclude that they don't want us here. Not just Black people, but Americans as a whole.
Right. When it comes to DMV, especially in Chicago, it'd be like long ass lines. You need like, 15 different documentation just to get a driver license or even a state ID. And these living immigrants coming over just no documentations and get IDs and cards and money and all that. That's crazy. And we as Americans working our butt off, and we got to provide 15 different documentation to get certain things started. Amazing. Come on, y'all. American first.
Just because it's cheaper labor.
Yes.
Everything revolves around money, right?
Yes.
And while we've been driving, we've seen a ton of cars without any stickers, anything like that.
Now, if I had a car with no stickers, no plates, no anything, they're going to pull me over. They're going to pull me out of my car, put the cuffs on me, and take me to the station, fingerprint me, and take my mugshot, and then I'm going to end up on the Chicago mugshot Facebook page, right? But this is not happening to them overall. I mean, they are arrested, but then there's no accountability because we have no way to trace them.
And another concern that you brought up about people coming in, and I've talked to a lot of people in New York City as well, they already believe that, like, for instance, like Hamas is in New York City and they're planning something. Do you think in the near future we can see something like 9/11 happening to one of the big cities in perhaps Chicago or New York City?
Yes. Like I said, Al-Qaeda has already identified us as a target. Nothing against the Palestinian people at all, but Chicago has the largest Palestinian population in the country. So we can ascertain that, at least one person out of that group is going to be angry, or may want to do violent things. And now we again have this target on us. We're literal sitting ducks here. And it's not fair that our government wants to virtue signal so much that it compromises our safety and security. We didn't ask for this. And there's nothing that we can do about it. Every time we try to stop it, we're stopped by members of the government, like they did us in City Hall with the ordinance.
It sounds like everything's going against the Chicago people.
Yes.
And against the Black community, against everybody here.
Yes.
And with the elections coming up in 2024, what do you think will happen if Donald Trump doesn't win?
If Donald Trump does not win, Chicago is going to go and spiral into a deeper chaos.
Do you think there will be rioting? Do you think there's potential that, like, a civil war could break out, or protests? Or
I don't think a war or protest, just because Chicago people are so used to being mistreated by our government. The Cook County Board of Elections, it's kind of funny organization. Like, we just had an election, 2 weeks ago, and it took them 10 days to count the ballots for the state's attorney. What the world? Then they found 10,000 ballots in a room. It's all kind of little funny, weird stuff.
And then once they're all working with the cartel, everything starts making sense.
Voila. So our goal is to get as many people to vote Donald Trump so that there is no wiggle room,
Yeah.
If we can get 50-60% of the people to come out and vote for him, then they can't steal it. And I believe, just based on what I'm hearing, people are going to vote Trump. I'm talking about young people, old people, especially the young people, because you have to remember, if you're like 20, 21, you were born at the tail end of Obama, which was, an economic decline.
Yeah.
Then you were there during the Trump years, which were great, up until COVID. And now we have Jim Crow Joe, and you can see the decline. The young people are saying, bring back Trump. We miss, the good life. We miss people going on vacation. We miss having money. They also say Trump.
Good morning, Angelo. I figure you would like this. You know what I'm saying? Chicago flips red. Yep.
gave us those stimmies, where are the stimmies, Jim Crow Joe? He does not care about us. He's only focusing on illegals, and it's offensive to us because I'm an 8th generation American, and here in Chicago, our grandparents are from Mississippi, so we've heard all of the Mississippi horror stories. Oh, I chopped so much cotton, I thought my hand was gonna fall off. Oh, I heard it was work in Chicago. I didn't even put on shoes. I ran to Chicago so fast, right? So we've heard these stories our whole lives about how our people really worked in this country and struggled to give us what we have here. They worked in these factories around the city, standing on their feet, 12-hour shifts to give us 2 flats to live in so that we could raise our families. So for us to see them actively trying to take that away from us,
thank you. All right, 1790. Let's get to 1800. 1800 today. Why not? 1800.
And the choice is to go red.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you for your time. Where can the people check you out at?
I am on Twitter at PRAE, PRAEBEH, like Black Excellence Hour at PRAEBEH. You can also find me on Facebook at Black.
Grocery stores and see the worst fraudsters. We're trying to look at what
as you guys can see, the theme of the day is fraud.
The remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out. What are the
and it's a Democrat party.
The legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud?
So Representative Omar is under new scrutiny now that the vice president himself is heading America's first fraud task force and has vowed to get to the bottom of what many believe is a criminal network designed to enrich the well-connected by helping them break America's rules at the expense of the American people who suffer greatly due to a lawless unaffordability crisis and are now being told that the ringleaders of these scams could finally face justice.
Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Well, you're one of those people. Vance revealing the DOJ has never had a specific task force to investigate fraud. Ever. They don't care. And that the government has never prosecuted fraud under $1.5 million.
In the United States of America, we pledge allegiance to the Constitution and the flag, not to a person or a king. I could have never imagined the day would come when we were staring down at this kind of creeping authoritarianism.
And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it. And you're going to have to do what you have to do.
That's the first time on the record that we have absolute and total confirmation that Ilhan Omar did in fact commit immigration fraud. And I looked this up right before coming on your show, that lying on your immigration forms or committing fraud against the United States of America is an immediate denaturalization offense.
Can you answer the question? No, I don't.
Get her out of here.
No.
So when the vice president comes out and says that this is real and that this happened and that you've definitely committed fraud, that's a big problem. And nobody's talking about how the American people have reached the boiling point over the last year, learning about fraud after fraud all over the place, all over this country. And we're sick and tired of not seeing anything done about it. While hardworking middle-class citizens go to grocery stores and see food they can't afford and write rent checks they hope don't bounce, not knowing if there's enough money in their account to keep them from living on the streets, while well-connected scammers break our laws and live the high life with the federal government paying for all of it. But it goes even further than that because, as we've seen with Representative Omar, she's allegedly set up her life to benefit from being elected. And her net worth has exploded 3,500% by proxy of her third husband, who's apparently worth hundreds of millions of dollars and is rarely seen on camera, never gets interviews, and has an investment firm with a website that nuked all of its information a few months ago, making you wonder where all this money comes from if it's not part of the scam. And that brings us to the real reason Representative Omar is under renewed scrutiny. The vice president was just appointed as the head of America's first anti-fraud task force, and apparently she's near the top of the list of people and scams to investigate.
Bro, we're not weak because of fraud, man. We are not weak because of fraud. We all good in America. We good.
nursing home fraud to autism center fraud to Leering Center fraud across this great land is going to be looked into. Scams which the president has said are stealing so much money, our country would have no affordability crisis or budget crisis if they disappeared, but instead are everywhere, enriching people like Representative Omar and numerous other left field politicians. Speaking of which, why are these people still here?
I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship, and I don't even remember ever witnessing.
How you live? She grew up in a dictatorship, but yet you a congresswoman in America, worth millions of dollars. Stop the cap. Stop the cap, Omar.
Anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon
and you still in Congress.
For the world to now be turned into one of the one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets.
Good morning, Underboss. Good morning.
Representative Omar, America is one of the worst countries ever. We've got military in the streets. How awful. It's almost as if she doesn't.
Right. He worth millions of dollars complaining about America and a dictatorship, yet you're still a $1 million woman. And you married your brother. And you're still in America. That's crazy.
I think there's a reason for the military to be in our streets. It's almost as if she doesn't think there's a reason that would bring a law and order machine to places,
right, sanctuary
strongholds across this country. It's almost as if she thinks crime ain't real. It doesn't exist. But now the question is, if America's so bad, why would she want to live here and represent Americans? Why would you want to do that? It doesn't make sense.
You married your brother to get here, or however it may be, vice versa.
Unless we're missing something.
I arrived here when I was 12 years old. I could have never imagined the day would come when we were staring down at this kind of creeping authoritarianism in the United States of America. But we are here.
She would not be out there talking if Trump was a king or a dictator. Her ass would be somewhere else, not there.
Because Donald Trump just has not chipped away at our democracy. He has taken a wrecking ball to the very foundation of what makes America great.
Could it be that Representative Omar is running from something President Trump is looking for? It could be. After all, why would you make your entire political career about hating and defeating someone who's bringing our country back from life support, which is the state her party and all of her policies left it in, which is why we've got the troops on the streets, which is why we've got Border Patrol all over the place. Oh, wait, we know the answer to that, don't we?
You were just talking about how Trump's economy has failed the American people, but I think the American people really want to know how he went from a negative 65,000 before coming into Congress to over $30 million in just 7 years.
My disclosure is public.
Yeah, it is. And so a lot of people now are looking into that and finding True Winery, a winery that doesn't actually seem to exist. Is that a real winery, or?
Do you all actually look at and read things, or do you just ask silly questions?
Okay, so maybe it makes sense to stick around America and live here if you have built your life and connected yourself in such a way that you can get rich in a way other Americans never will. And this is where the fictitious businesses owned by Ilhan and her husband, Tim Minette, come into play. We're talking about a winery and an alleged investment firm, both of which appear to not be operating at all, yet somehow are worth more than most of us ever will be. And the allegation here is that you have a well-connected elected representative married to someone for purposes of influence peddling and door opening on an elect and collect basis while breaking numerous laws in the process.
They come here and they steal $19 million. That's crazy. And Ilhan Omar, I hope this is part of it, but she married her brother supposedly. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. That means she's here illegally and she's a congresswoman. And I hope you're going to be looking at that, or somebody is, because she's one of the ringleaders here. She's bad news, really bad news. She's so bad for our country.
So here we have President Trump once again putting out the allegation that Representative Omar married her brother for purposes of getting him into America, which is fraudulent. And for years, this allegation's been thrown around, but the mainstream press has always told us it's a conspiracy or can't be looked into or nothing can be done. But now the vice president says that has changed. Do you ever get the feeling that your digital life isn't really yours? That your emails, photos, files are
clip, by the way, about Ilhan Omar. That's the first time on the record that we have absolute and total confirmation that Ilhan Omar did, in fact, commit immigration fraud. And I looked this up right before coming on your show, that lying on your immigration forms or committing fraud against the United States of America is an immediate denaturalization offense. It is something that has been tried in court. It happens actually quite regularly where people lie to get into this country. They're denaturalized. They're sent home. It's something that must happen with Ilhan Omar. The rest of the clip, J.D. Vance says we're exploring this right now. But Stephen Miller has all of the available evidence, and I checked with DHS. This is 100% true. Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud to get into America and to loot our nation dry.
Wow. They're not saying this is alleged. The vice president says this really happened. And now there's a fraud task force that's going to have the guts and the wherewithal to go after this stuff. And you know something? The government moves very slowly. We've seen these investigations by people like Nick Shirley all year, revealing the underbelly of fraud in America, not just in Minnesota, but in, well, frankly, it's happening in all 50 states. But the biggest frauds are happening in these left field sanctuaries, Minnesota, California, you name it. And now we've got real proof that an elected representative has committed fraud in multiple ways. But according to the vice president, the reason nothing's ever been done about this in the past is because the government, the big, bloated, wonderful DMV government, didn't have the ability to go after and audit the money that it sends out into thin air and never hears about again. There was no way to do any of that. Listen to this.
Now that we have the fraud task force here inside the United States, what will you guys be doing different than something that we haven't done before to tackle fraud?
That's a good question.
Two really big things, Nick. So the first of all is we're going to be coordinating across the government in a way that's really never been done before to focus on anti-fraud. So let's say, for example, that Scott Bessent or somebody at the Secretary of Treasury's office.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by.
It's not the Treasury Department. It's at the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. There's going to be coordination now so that when one person in the government sees fraud happening, they're actually telling everybody else so that we can get to the root of it and hopefully prosecute it.
The fact that that wasn't happening before really lets you know how easy it was for the right operative and the right government agency to see something and say nothing and cover it all up. And remember, we're talking about people who've politicized justice, which means that your team is above the law. And to a political party who thinks the only criminal is the president in the White House, when they're the ones running the show, nobody who thinks like that is going to be taken off the field because of the full court press taking place against people who support law and order and against people who want to close the border. That's how one political party in this country seems to be running things.
And that leads me to my second point, and maybe the most important is we've never before within the Department of Justice had a committed anti-fraud.
Good morning, Pamela. Good morning, everybody.
A committed assistant attorney general who's focused on the fraud issue.
Good morning, this effing guy. Good morning.
Focused on fraud has told me that right now we don't even prosecute fraud that's under $1.5 million.
Let's grow. Thank you, guys. 1790. Amazing.
To how much fraud the United States government, which doles out billions and trillions of dollars for all kinds of things, there is an amount of money that they think is too small to be worth going after. And this right here shows us where the industrial fraud complex came from, because if you have a massive, gigantic fraud and you rip off the government for trillions of dollars, of course you're going to go to jail. But if you take the total amount of fraud you want to commit and you chop it up into little pieces and you have it all out there throughout this wonderful country, stealing in all kinds of different little ways, well, you might just get away with it because each little piece is too tiny for all these government agencies that are disconnected and don't talk to each other to actually investigate. What a disaster.
Which means there's a lot of fraudsters who never get caught, who never get punished. We're changing that too.
Good.
So there's people who are making $1.5 million committing fraud, and they used to not be prosecuted. When can we expect to see prosecutions take place, for instance, for example, like the Lears at the Lears?
That's a good question.
So we just got our new AG confirmed. He hasn't even been sworn in yet. I'll swear him in next week, actually. And look, I think the plan is we got to start doing prosecutions as quickly as possible. These cases take a little while to build. You've got to investigate. You've got to gather evidence.
Yeah.
But now that we have that guy set up, now that we have Colin McDonald set up, I think in a matter of months, we should be seeing a significant ramp up in the number of prosecutions that we're seeing.
Yeah, so the government, they take time to do things. They can send out the money very quickly, but it takes time for this DMV-style behemoth, which is our government at every level. It's the DMV. Takes these guys time to get it in gear and go after the criminals and the fraudsters, and we very well may see people get prosecuted who were caught on video doing something wrong years ago. But the other thing this reveals is that our government, it shouldn't even be in the business of handing out my money and your money to people on the other side of the country who are running some scam that no one is ever going to check on. The lesson here is that the government is too big and too powerful and should be shrunk down. There should be offices that are closed down. There should be money doling out, operations and cabinets and whatever that need to be closed and stopped. They're doing too much. They're giving out too much. They have no way to check. And the president even said so.
And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it. And you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about.
Wow.
The theft is incredible. And I
That's
think
insane.
JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big. The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things.
It's too big. The federal government should be involved in these.
And they said Trump supposed to be a king. He's saying less government. Amazing.
Tiny little programs at the state
Trump
level
want less government.
that it does not have the ability to check up on. And all of us know that in your own personal life. You understand that if you're going to give somebody money for some purpose, you don't do that unless you have the ability to hold them accountable for whatever that purpose is. All of us function like that, but the government, nope, they don't have to function like that. They give people money and whatever happens to it, well, we tried. We were trying to help some kids in this state over here, and we were trying to run a care facility over here. Our heart was in the right
Get him out of
place.
here.
We're just so generous, as Governor Tim Walz put it, that, we're bound to get ripped off. And I guess that's the price of generosity.
From the American people to be kind and compassionate to our citizens has set up this program to help families who are dealing with these particular struggles. Now, what we've seen is fraudsters at an industrial scale taking advantage of that program to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. And there are two separate tragedies there. The first tragedy is that you have people who pay into the federal government, who pay into the IRS, who pay their taxes expecting that those taxes will go to help their fellow citizens. And it's not going there. It's going to help fraudsters. That's tragedy number one. And the more important tragedy is that you have families who need these services who are unable to get them because people are getting rich off of fraud schemes instead of making sure that autistic children and their families get access to these resources. And unfortunately, that story, while it's very concrete and very obvious what we're seeing in Minneapolis, it is replayed again and again and again across many states and across many different programs.
Yeah, that's how fraud works. It gets set out for a legitimate looking purpose, but it never ends up being used for that purpose. And since the government can't check, since the government has a dollar amount, of course you have a recipe for disaster here. I'm sure there were people out there, and there are right now, that we're going to find that committed $1.49 million worth of fraud multiple times. We're going to find that. We're going to find people running all kinds of scams like this, flying under the radar, living large, taking vacations, driving around in luxury SUVs, not dealing with the affordability crisis afflicting the hardworking American.
Ones, and Europe needs to get a reality check. I mean, it sounds like that I got here. Social programs in the United States of America, guess how much they're costing us? 50 to 60% of our overall federal spending. Yes, we spend 12 to 15% on defense.
Theme of the day is fraud, as you guys can see.
We got a lot of interest on our debt that we have to account for as well. It takes about 10 to 15%, education, infrastructure, other things like that, about 10%. But you've got healthcare expenses for Medicaid and Medicare at roughly 25 to 30%, retirement expenses 20 to 25%. Well, this is why you need to figure out where the fraud is. We need to clamp down on who's here. We need to clamp down on these benefits, especially the fraudulent, illegal ones. And Europe needs to get a reality check. I mean, it sounds like, politically speaking, it may soon be forced upon them because you're seeing a rise of the ultra-right. Why it's ultra-right to say, hey, gee, I don't think we should bring in everybody and give them all free stuff. I mean, it doesn't actually seem like it's that excessive a viewpoint, but to them it is, because they believe in the open borders. They believe in all the green energy giveaways. They believe in a wealth transfer. I don't quite know how. On tomorrow's program, I've got a great interview for you with my friend Buck Sexton, who just wrote a book on this. He used to work for the CIA before he got into the news business. I think he made a good choice. But anyway, before he worked in the news business, he was in the CIA, and he knows exactly what an information op is when they try and twist your mind to make you think that men can have babies. There's a lot of that going on in Europe. A lot of that, it has been going back on here at home. Back here at home, we've had a lot of it. But you know what? People have woken up to the insanity. And we're going to keep waking up. Because we will not be France. We will not be Brussels. We will not be the UK. We're the United States of America. And we stand strong on our own 2 feet. You know, we didn't even have an income tax way back when. You go back to the 1840s. A lot of my ancestors came here during the potato famine. There was no handout. There was nothing. You came here, you either made it or you didn't, and our economy was doing just fine. In fact, those were boom years. Boom years. We had tons of immigration, but immigrants came here because they wanted to work, not because they wanted a handout. And I'm not saying everybody does, okay? Let me not tarnish everybody with one big swoop. I am thinking about the fraudsters in Minnesota. I am thinking about the daycare owners in Minnesota. I'm thinking about the Feeding Our Future ring, led by, or at least introduced with legislations by, Ilhan Omar. We're clamping down on fraud. We're clamping down on fraud, and the DOJ is going after these people. Ilhan Omar, they're closing in on you and all your coonies. Yeah, she likes to say that. Trump and his coonies. I'm telling you, they're going after people every day. I mean, they just got a bunch of guilty convictions as of Tuesday. I mean, we're not even 2 days into the week here. I want to go to Todd Blanche, the acting interim DOJ head, taking over for Pam Bondi.
Just this week, and it's only Tuesday, a criminal defendant was sentenced and the department obtained 2 additional guilty pleas in matters totaling over $500 million in healthcare and COVID fraud.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Let's grow. Appreciate
Just
that.
since yesterday, we had a guilty plea in a $160 million healthcare enrollment fraud scheme and a sentencing in a $100 million COVID-19 fraud and a guilty plea in a $160 million healthcare fraud scheme as well. Each of these cases represents countless hours of dedication from the prosecutors and the federal agents and local law enforcement who work them. The Department of Justice is holding criminals accountable.
They're going after them. And it can't happen fast enough. Meanwhile, the White House task force is looking at Medicare and Medicaid spending to the tune of $2 trillion. Department of Labor's unemployment insurance, $43 billion. Department of Agriculture SNAP program, $101 billion for SNAP. Health and Human Services. You know what gets me on this stuff? You get like a credit card. You can use it on Amazon. I mean, there's no shame in any of it. You don't have to go down and stand in line at a welfare office. No, you get a nice little credit card that you get to use on Amazon. Wow. Health and Human Services temporary assistance for needy families, $16 billion. Department of Housing and Urban Development's rental assistance, public housing, $64 billion. Small Business Administration loans and assistance, which we've already figured out has been just overrun with fraud. $100 billion. I mean, this is crazy stuff. Andrew Ferguson on the task force talking about it today.
Americans have turned over trillions of their tax dollars to social welfare programs to help their neighbors and fellow citizens through hard times. They've done so on the basis of social trust, the belief that their governments, state and federal, will do the right things with their dollars. If we fail to address it, the fabric of our nation will swiftly unravel.
Yes, right? We can't allow for this, period. Okay, there's got to be serious consequences.
Discovered was really shocking. Not only are these top line numbers somewhere between.
I'm going to jump back in just to give you some context around this. I want to go right now to Chris Rufo. He's at the Manhattan Institute. He's been conducting an investigation into this massive amount of fraud. He's found a ton of it out in California, which doesn't bode well for you, one Gavin Newsom, because apparently you've really been asleep at the switch. I mean, you might make Timmy Walsh look like child's play before it's all said and done. Again, back over to Rufo.
Discovered was really shocking. Not only are these top line numbers somewhere between $180 billion and $280 billion in fraud under Gavin Newsom in California, but when you dig into it and you read all of the court documents, the indictments, the other investigations, we found out that virtually every criminal group on planet Earth has been looting the state of California. Romanian international fraud rings. You had rap groups in Memphis, Tennessee. You had neo-Nazi prison gangs. You had people actually in California death row applying for fraudulent unemployment benefits. And what we found is that essentially every criminal group saw that Gavin Newsom was opening the floodgates of state spending. They could take whatever they wanted. And he's losing now an estimated up to $50 billion a year to fraud with no end in sight.
Amazing.
Well, we can't lose that kind of money. We just can't lose that kind of.
Something that the mainstream media is not covering at all. And again, I've said this in other videos, I really believe that the Republican Party needs a better PR team, because the awesome things that are being done that are really helping Americans and saving a whole lot of money are not being reported by the mainstream media. You want to know why? Because it negatively impacts the Democrat Party, which is who they spend every day shilling for. In this video, I'm going to expose you to something that you may or may not have even heard involving our VP, J.D. Vance. So I want to start it off with this post made by President Trump. Check this out, and this is what it says, and I'm going to get into the video clip. Vice President J.D. Vance is now in charge of fraud in the United States. It is mass invasive, and the job he will be doing in conjunction with many great people within the Trump administration will be a major factor in how great the future of our country will be. We call him the Fraud Czar, and his focus will be everywhere, but primarily in those blue states where crooked Democrat politicians like those in California, Illinois, Minnesota, Somalia, beware, Maine, New York, and many others have had a free-for-all in the unprecedented theft of taxpayer money. The numbers are so large.
Like and subscribe. Name is Deunta.
Balance our American budget. Raids have already started in LA. Good luck, JD. Now, the reason why this is so important is because, number one, President Trump is throwing JD Vance, VP Vance, and alley-oop. Because as you may know, Marco Rubio has been just getting it done with a lot of the foreign and diplomatic achievements of the Trump administration. And JD Vance has been doing a great job as VP, but nothing that he can hang his hat on going into 2028. And with JD being the VP, he is the natural successor to the seat. And Marco Rubio has said flat out, unequivocally, that if JD runs, he will not run. But if JD doesn't run, Marco obviously would make an awesome commander-in-chief. So
mad respect about that. Mad respect. That's what's up.
Why is this so important? Number one, It's amazing that we hadn't had a fraud department already. And do you know they are finding
Thank you. Let's get to 1800. Let's start with 1800. Thank you, guys. Let's get to 1800.
Stolen. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let you hear VP Vance, and then I'm going to show you what has happened right now in real time, the raids, the frauds that have been captured, and the billions of dollars that we have allowed. Democrats have allowed, and even Republicans, the rhinos, have allowed to lead this country, that now we're getting back, and we don't have to worry about Social Security not lasting and not being there. We don't have to worry about those welfare programs going bankrupt because of and that's why they were going bankrupt. You remember reports we hear when they say, oh, Social Security may not be there. Social Security may not be there. And we're wondering, like, how can that be? You thinking maybe it's because the younger generation isn't working as much and paying into it? None of those have anything to do with it. Come to find out, the Democrats have been using all of these programs as slush funds to fund all types of protests and radical propaganda agendas all around the world. And once we stop USAID, that put a big hurt on their movement. And now this crackdown on the fraud within these government programs, mind opening. So check out what JD has to say, and then I'm going to show you the report, and we're going to kick it off with California. And why is this important to you? Especially if you're in a blue city or a blue state, because they're stealing from you 9 times out of 10. Why is this important to you if you live in a red state? Because these are monies that can help rebalance our deficit. And understand something, this deficit, this isn't just a Democrat thing. It took rhinos and Democrats together to get us into $36 trillion in debt. And for the first time, I want to think they said in over 20 years, President Trump, through the tariffs, was able to reduce our deficit from $129 billion in last March to roughly $29 billion as we were getting ready to end out 2025. But let me let JD talk, and then I'm going to show you the reports and the raids and what's happening. But check out VP Vance.
I don't know what the top line number, Bill, is, and I think that's unfortunate that nobody has ever tried to take a systematic look at how much fraud there is in the federal government. How many illegal aliens are on Medicaid? We know that it's billions and billions of dollars that should go to American citizens. It's going to illegal aliens. How many fraudulent daycare centers have been set up where that money should go to American citizens to help their kids get into childcare? Instead, it's being stolen from them by illegal aliens in our country. How much have government officials actually been complicit in this fraud, because some of them have gotten wealthy, or at the least they've gotten campaign donations from the people who have gotten rich from that fraud? The story of the American economy in so many ways during the Biden administration, Bill, is that the American citizen was ripped off for people who shouldn't be here and by politicians who should have known better. And the Trump administration, the president has asked me to take a full, whole government approach to trying to understand that. And what does that mean, Bill? That means, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to be investigating and, where possible, throwing fraudsters in prison. But it's also going to mean that Scott Bessent,
you go to jail.
The Treasury Department, we're going to be looking at income tax records. We're going to be trying to understand how it is that the American people have been defrauded, how it is that people have used resources and programs that should go to American citizens instead have been going to fraudulent uses.
What did Vance do? That's fraud. How he's in fraud?
Never been used. And the president, I talked about this a couple of months ago and said, what if we just did everything that we could to stop the fraud that's being committed against the American taxpayer? The president said, great idea, let's do it, and we're going to work on that very aggressively over the next year.
Wow. Did you hear that? Now, on the heels of that, you heard that, right? Check out what's been going on in California. It won't surprise you, but it will astound you. And then after this report, I want you to see what VP Vance, with the DOJ, and what's been going down, that the mainstream media is not covering. And remember, for the next few days or so, and happy Easter to you and your family too. For the next few days or so, you're going to see me in hotel rooms. You're going to see me at family members' houses. My wife and I are on the road. We up here in the Midwest right now. I'm in the state of Indiana. I will be in Michigan next, and then we'll be back to Florida by the middle of this upcoming week. So bear with me as we do this, but check this clip out.
And America's fraud investigations bring us to the Golden State of California. Look at this number, $146 billion. Health and Human Service officials confirmed that number to Chris Rufo as the staggering amount of fraud in a single program in Gavin Newsom's state Medicaid system. Stop and think
Talking about reparations, man, all that money.
About that. $146 billion, a single program, a single state. That is slightly more than Warren Buffett's estimated net
Wow.
worth.
Subscribe, everybody. Good morning, happy Wednesday. Let's get to 1800. Let's start off with 1800. Why not? 1800.
And it is
subscribers.
well over $100 billion more than the most valuable NFL team, the Dallas Cowboys. That is just for Medicaid, just in California. So imagine what the total number of fraud is when you count all the social programs in all 50 states. The Trump administration is imagining that, and they are now taking action in a stunning raid of hospice facilities in Gavin Newsom's California. Now, just this week, the Justice Department announced 8 people were arrested accused of defrauding the state out of more than $50 million. That includes one couple who runs a hospice care center in Anaheim. And in dramatic fashion, authorities swarmed their residents, sawing through the metal front gates of the property, and used a loudspeaker to get them to come outside. The couple is accused of defrauding
taxpayers. Good morning. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
And according to reports, their center has been a problem for years. Over the past 5 years, they reported more than 97% of their patients lived, and that's in hospice. That is unheard of. 90% of patients, on average, die less than 6 months after admission.
Did you hear that? These people had a 97% heal rate in hospice. So out of 100 people, 97 of them say, you know what?
Dave Wood, good morning.
But feeling better. You know what I mean? And do me a solid too. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button or that hype button and leave a comment. YouTube's algorithm loves to see engagement with the comments, and they like to see the likes. And the hype button is a new feature, but they say it really helps the channel. So only if you're enjoying this content, would you please hit the like button and the hype button and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this fraud. Do you think that JD is the right person in the right position to get it done? And does it piss you off to see this $146 billion? That is insane. But let me get to the next clip. Now, you heard them talking about the bus. This is a full-fledged report on the actual bus. It goes even more in detail about the DOJ, the charges, and the ramifications for these people. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And here's the real kicker. You remember Nick Shirley did that expose out there in Minneapolis around how all of those Leering centers were fake and were fraudulent? Well, he got so many views, and people were supporting him so much that it forced CBS to go out there and do their own deep dive out in California. And even the left-wing mainstream media, CBS, was astounded by the levels of fraud. Because I believe they went out there to disprove Nick Shirley. They went out there to show, oh, it's not really like that. And what they found, they couldn't even hide it. They actually covered it, which shocked me more than anything else. On the heels of all of the stuff that's taking place in the country right now, seniors, it's extremely important that you make sure you...
This story for a while. What happened?
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, this is the first takedown for the new White House Fraud Task Force. They arrested 2 owners of 2 hospices here in greater Los Angeles. They're accused of collectively stealing about $16 million from taxpayers. And this money was intended, right, for compassionate end-of-life care for the terminally ill. Here's some video we shot earlier today of the FBI making those arrests of a husband and wife. He a doctor, she a nurse, co-owners of the St. Francis Palliative Care Hospice in Glendale. And what they were doing was this, admitting people who were not qualified for hospice, but billed the government as if they were, about $30,000 per patient. And when the benefits ran out, they dropped them. Here's the kicker. Nationally, 80% of adults admitted or people admitted to hospice die, usually in the first few weeks. Here, almost nobody died. After 8 months, 97% left alive.
Insane.
They've been bilking the taxpayers for over $7 million, close to $8 million, and it's all total fraudulent hospice services. They were signing up people who are not terminally ill. They were forging the documents, the medical records, and they were collecting taxpayer dollars. And they've been charged, and this morning they were arrested.
Here's another arrest down in Topanga Hospice. And here they were paying kickbacks to the patients, giving them $600 a month in an envelope. That's because they were getting reimbursed from the feds about $6,000 a month.
Let's get to 1,800, you guys. 1,800 subscribers. Let's get that. Let's get that. Why not?
Immigrants that have come here and are just bilking the system. Not saying that there's not any white and black or American-born people that are doing that, but that's what it seems to look like in California, especially in Minnesota, especially in these deep blue cities. It is the most amazing thing. And it's like they do this, and I'm not sure if you heard this before, but allegedly they do this because then the fraudsters take that money that they're getting, they need to kick it back to the politicians who are turning a blind eye. They donate substantially to the campaigns. And that's why businesses like ActBlue, who is the money processor, payment processor for the Democrat Party and fundraising, is investigated right now because allegedly you got people who might have donated 5 years ago to a Democrat politician, but now they've got 30 donations in their name totaling $30,000 and $40,000, and the individual has no idea of it. Where'd that money come from? Did it come from all these bad actors who are being allowed?
Condolences, Dave. Condolences, man.
Minnesota, in Minneapolis, Keith Ellison, the attorney general for the state, is on recording negotiating with Somalis about how he was going to stop the investigations and block it. And when you know, 7 days later, $10,000 campaign donation shows up in his coffers. But he's on recording telling them he's going to take care of the problem, and he got their back. And still sat there in front of Congress and tried to deny it. You think Gavin Newsom, who's, and I'm not sure if you know this, you do know that Gavin Newsom's right-hand person, the woman who was at his side, do you know that she got busted for fraud? She got busted and indicted on like 20-some-odd counts of fraud. You think Gavin Newsom didn't know that was going on? She was his right wing. She was his goose. If you watch Top Gun, think he didn't know? Just the tip of the iceberg. And if you saw that $146 billion a year since 2019, do the math. We're talking about 7 years. Let's just take it at $100 billion. That's $700 billion. And then when we had the other 46, we're looking at $1 trillion just in California alone from one program. That's one program in one state. Trump's right. We will probably be able to reduce our entire deficit. And the big bankers don't like that. They don't like that. But let me finish.
Now,
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate that. You know what I'm saying?
they're also paying marketers to find seniors and take their Medicare card. They bilked the government for about $8 million, not eligible, and they were not terminally ill.
The name of this endeavor is Project Never Say Die.
If you haven't subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe.
Hospice facilities
Name is
this couple
Deunta.
and their family don't seem to ever pass away.
So the feds are here for a reason. California was giving out thousands of hospice licenses to people who were unqualified, no oversight, and of course taxpayers have been paying for it ever since. Dana?
Okay, we're going to follow this one. Thank you.
Can you imagine going to a doctor because they're licensed, that you see their information, believing that they're highly skilled, they're educated, they're knowledgeable, just to find out that these licenses were given out kind of like the truck driving licenses given out in California to people who can't even understand or read English. They can't even read the road signs, but yet they're out driving these big machines around, which turn into weapons, deadly weapons, in the hands of somebody who's incompetent. It was 17,000 licenses have been given out to illegal aliens truck driving, but $146 billion a year since 2019, over $115 billion more than the value of the Dallas Cowboys from one program in one state. And again, Pam Bondi has been terminated, moved, redirected, whatever you want to call it, because we need some real accountability to take place. And I tried to be in her corner. I really did. But for whatever reason, I don't know if Pam was on the take, if she was afraid, whatever it is, but she was blocking how things would be happening. She was blocking release of certain files. She was blocking, almost seemed like she was trying to run out the clock. She stand up and beat her chest of a local drug dealer being arrested. I'm not knocking that. There's still one bad person off the street. But you got all these bad actors like Ellis, the Attorney General of Minnesota. You got Tim Walz's of the world. You got all of these folks out here that are doing all of these nefarious things, but yet nobody was being held accountable. And I understand you got to find the judges that are willing to do it, the grand juries that are willing to indict, or even the mistake they made when they had Letitia James on the mortgage fraud, but yet put an attorney up that had not been sworn in by the Senate. She hadn't been confirmed. So she was able to walk. But hey, listen, you know the Trump administration wasn't going to stop. Kind of a side note, but it's really not, because it lines up with fraud. They got Letitia James again. See, mortgage fraud, it's like it's downhill fraud when you do stuff like mortgage fraud. So when you commit mortgage fraud, you also have to commit insurance fraud. You also have to commit tax fraud to make it all correct. So when you lie on the mortgage, you have to lie on the insurance paperwork, and then you have to lie on your tax documents to put it all together. And guess what? They've got it all together again, and they've referred Letitia James for referral. They've got the right prosecutors, because guess what? One of the violations was to a company in Florida. The other one was to a company, an insurance provider in Illinois. So you got an insurance provider that was defrauded allegedly in Florida, and one in Illinois. Which one of those do you think is going to hold true? I have very high hopes on the Florida, and we're going to see what happens. But either which way, they're cracking down on fraud. They're taking a sledgehammer to.
The shortage led to 1,600.
Hey, go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know, that helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, this is a follow-up to a previous story that we've done multiple times over the past year. We brought you multiple updates on the situation in Massachusetts where the state refused to pay public defenders what the public defenders felt they were worth. And so they just stopped taking cases, y'all. And because they stopped taking cases, people who were accused of crimes have been just let back on the streets. See, you have a constitutional right. Remember this. You have a constitutional right when the government puts you on trial for a crime. You have a constitutional right to representation, to an attorney. And if you cannot afford one, like it says in so many movies, if you cannot afford one, one must be provided to you by the government. Well, the government has to pay those people. And in Massachusetts, they have been paying their attorneys a wage that the attorneys stopped agreeing to. They say, look, in surrounding jurisdictions, they're getting paid better. We want better pay as well. And that has just led to basically thousands of criminals released back onto the streets. So all of this went to the state Supreme Court, y'all. Today, we're going to look and see exactly what happened with that. And also, as a bit of a preview, even though Massachusetts does not have the money for its public defenders, you know who they do have money for, y'all? If you've been watching my videos for some time, you already know who they do have money for. We'll take a look at that as well, y'all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Advocates say the SJC's decision is disappointing and they'll keep pushing lawmakers until they're fairly compensated. Now, the issue centers on bar advocates, private attorneys appointed to represent people who cannot afford a lawyer. Nearly 1 year ago, many stopped taking new cases, protesting what they say are low.
Good morning, Mr. Judge. Mr. George. Good morning, Mr. George.
87 cases being dismissed in Suffolk and Middlesex counties as of last month. Lawyers asked the SJC to allow judges to raise pay. Today, the justices declined, saying pay decisions belong to the legislature, not the courts.
So in the near term, as I said previously, and as you have probably seen in our previous videos about this, there have been just countless criminals who, because they did not have representation, because they could not afford a lawyer, because the state could not provide them with a lawyer because they weren't willing to pay, these criminals were just released back onto the streets. You've even had people who were victims of these criminals start making like public service announcements.
Janelle, my man, thank you for the super chat, Janelle. Appreciate it, man. Janelle's my old high school buddy. Thank you for the super chat, man. 100 on that. Thank you.
Like, what's going on? How can the state do this to us? How can they just let people back onto the streets?
Thank you, bro. How you been, Janelle? How you been?
Of an impasse. I guess, you know how something stops working properly and that becomes the new normal? That seems like the case in Massachusetts right now. This is the new normal, and the public defenders are saying, hey, if we just accept this as the new normal.
Yeah, the theme of the day is fraud. I done played about like 4 videos of, saying exposing the fraud of the Democrat Party. It's amazing. Stop voting blue no matter who. Fraud is bad.
Our system could face a crisis here coming up soon.
I can see that if this is not addressed seriously within the next 5 to 10 years, the private bar, in terms of their ability to represent injured defendants, will crumble. It has started to crumble.
8 more subscribers to 1,800. Let's get to 1,800. Why not? 1,800.
We are going to continue our advocacy efforts in the State House to ensure that the private attorneys who take our cases are compensated appropriately for the hugely important work they do for our clients. Lawmakers approved a pay increase last year, but many bar advocates say it still is not enough. Reporting in the newsroom, Brittany Johnson, 5 investigates.
All right, y'all. So we see the state, they just don't have the money to pay the public defenders to give people their constitutionally guaranteed rights. So they just let people back onto the streets. Probably a decent portion of them are actually criminals, and some of them are probably people who were innocent of any crime.
But yeah, Janelle doing good, man.
Percentage of them, thousands and thousands of people, just criminals back onto the streets.
It's nice and sunny out here.
But guess who they do?
Nice and sunny out here in Rockford. No complaints. Probably cut the grass.
You have money for? Can you guess? Can you guess?
Thanks again, man. Thanks again, Jernell.
Help out, y'all. If you know,
Thanks again, bro.
Michelle,
Appreciate that.
You already know who they have millions
Thanks
of
for the
dollars
super
for.
chat.
So let's take a look at where Massachusetts is spending its money, particularly in Boston, y'all.
The people of Boston founded this country on the principles of community and freedom for everyone. Those are the principles that we're continuing to fight for.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu there taking on the Trump administration with a new announcement. The city setting aside millions for immigrant services.
News Center 5's Matt Reed is live in Boston with more on this new program. Matt.
Well, Jessica, the mayor announcing that this funding will be used from everything from purchasing diapers, second language education, to legal services for immigrants.
Whether your family has been here for generations or you are a new resident in our city, we will not let anyone storm into Boston and disrupt our community.
So how much money do they have? Now, they don't have money for the public defenders, okay? But how much money do they have to help the migrants, y'all? Do y'all see how this works? You have a constitutionally guaranteed right. Let's say you get pulled over. You get pulled over. You haven't been drinking. For some reason, cop thinks you might have been drinking and driving and give you a breathalyzer. Thing blows a 0.2, right? It's wrong. It's malfunctioning.
Thank you.
And you need a public defender.
All right. Almost there. 1,800 subscribers. Almost there. Thank you, guys.
To go hire a lawyer for this. So you can't get a public defender, but somebody who's in the country without permission, who might be about to get kicked out, Boston's like, oh, we got money for you. We got money for you.
Now, the private-public partnership is about $4.5 million worth of funding, $1.3 million from the city of Boston, and more than $3.1 million from three philanthropies: the Boston Foundation, the Barr Foundation, and the United Way.
Stay consistent. You're right, bro. I am. I'm on it, man. Thank you for that. Thank you, guys.
Of Massachusetts Bay.
Boston has always been a city shaped by immigrants. And when our immigrant neighbors are threatened or vulnerable, we do not stand aside. We step forward.
Even though Kristi Noem is out, the harms of this administration remain. And it's important for us to be ready.
Now, several speakers today acknowledge that this money promised is just a drop in the bucket compared to the federal dollars that have been withheld by the Trump administration going after so-called sanctuary cities. The mayor and these community leaders hoping that the announcement of these grant dollars will inspire other organizations and individuals in Boston to take similar actions to help vulnerable members of their community. Reporting live in Boston, Matt Reed, WCBB News.
So yeah, y'all like to always bring you the updates to the stories that we start. We don't like to just leave these threads hanging out there. So we will see what happens with this in the long run. But for the meantime and in between time, it looks like Boston public defenders will not get that pay raise that they wanted. They did get a smaller raise, but they're not going to get what they thought. At least the Massachusetts Supreme Court is not going to help them out. So y'all let me know what you think. Do you think that the money is being allocated properly? Do you think that the state should do everything in their power to make sure they give all of the citizens their constitutionally guaranteed rights before they start spending on people who are in the country without permission? I mean, listen, you already know my opinion, but let me know what y'all think. Drop a comment down below, but before you do, please hit the share button. Share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do.
I, Tiffany Henyard.
With all of the lawsuits against Tiffany Henyard. You're right, lawsuits, subpoena.
And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
She really felt that she was invincible.
If you want to have a little cat fight, you can handle this back there.
Oh, she's bringing it from Chicago to Atlanta. And we don't know if the people of Atlanta are ready for it.
Dalton didn't need me. Atlanta does. Welcome to the A-Tiff.
All things law, true crime, and a bit of, you already know, just a bit of debauchery. Speaking of debauchery, today we are talking about a story that your comments have been asking for weeks. Tiffany Henyard, the woman they called the super mayor of Dalton, Illinois. Except her constituents had a few other names for her. Now she's in Atlanta, and she wants a seat on the Fulton County Board of Commissioners,
Marvin Arrington seat, to be specific. You guys remember Marvin, a seat in one of the most politically significant counties in the entire country right now. Before we get into the residency hearing footage, and there's a lot to unpack there, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that her father, Ronald, was shot in Chicago just about 2 weeks ago.
Mr. George, no problem. Thank you, man.
Injured, regardless of anybody's politics or opinions about her record, that is a family going through something painful. And I do want to say that first. We wish him a full recovery. Now, with that said, let's talk about who Tiffany Henyard is, because if you're not from Illinois, you may not know this story, and it's a story. Tiffany Henyard became the mayor of Dalton, Illinois in 2021. Dalton is a small suburb just south of Chicago, and she won with an 82% vote. She called herself the super mayor. She was the first female mayor of Dalton, and she came in with enormous energy. 4 years later, she lost her re-election primary by 88-12. Let that sink in.
Damn.
The same community that gave her 82% of the vote 4 years later gave
Amazing.
her 12%. So what happened in between? A few things. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, not exactly a conservative, was hired to investigate Dalton's finances. Her report found that the village bank's balance went from $5.6 million in 2022 to $3.6 million, and that was a deficit in 2024. The village was described as being in, and I'm quoting directly here, in total collapse. There were federal subpoenas, a probe into a $200,000 payment to a contractor whose owner had been convicted of bribery, accusations of excessive spending, a lawsuit from a township resident, and she was ordered to pay $10,000 in unpaid rent to a former landlord while she was serving as mayor.
That's some ghetto. That is ghetto as hell. Amazing. Stop voting blue no matter who. That's crazy.
Judging off of hearsay, false allegations.
What did you say?
False allegations.
What?
False allegations.
Now here's where it gets interesting for our Fulton County audience. 2 days after losing that Democratic primary, just 2 days, she registered to vote in Georgia, and then she switched parties.
There you go, chat.
She registered to vote
There you
as
go,
a
Tree.
Republican and filed to run for the Fulton County District 5 Commission seat, the seat that Marvin Arrington has held since 2014. And I lived in Fulton County, so I know what that seat means to the community. The questions I want to pose to you today are simple. Is it a genuine fresh start? Someone learning from their mistakes and wanting to serve a new community?
Dalton didn't need me. Atlanta does. Welcome to the ATIF.
Or is this a pattern? And if so, what does that mean for Fulton County voters? And the big one, does someone who just arrived in Georgia 2 days after losing an election have the standing, the knowledge, and frankly, residency to represent District 5? That last question is exactly what lawmakers are asking. Let's watch.
And with the afternoon's latest developments, Angelique?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. We are here at the Fulton County Board of Elections hub. They actually had a meeting this afternoon and made a decision to look into the residency of this very controversial candidate.
She drunk.
Tiffany Henyard, and like you said, we have done stories on her before. She was dubbed America's worst mayor by Newsweek and other publications. She is quite charismatic, the former mayor of Dalton, Illinois, where she lost her re-election bid after allegations of lavish spending. Now, she immediately moved to Atlanta. She has since qualified to become a Fulton County commissioner here. She's interested in representing District 5 that Marvin Arrington held for so long. But the chair of the Fulton County Board of Elections says 2 electors and members of the public have raised questions about her residency. Now, Henyard told Fulton County officials she has rented a house in the Chattering Springs subdivision in the southern part of the county.
We have seen a lease for May 1st, 2025. And on that same date, she was also still the mayor of a city in Illinois. We'll ask our attorney first to explain what the law is with regarding to determine if the Board of Superintendents can challenge. At the time,
she still had another job and was applying for another job. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, you're a mayor and you're looking at Marvin Arrington's seat at the same damn time. This seems like a setup.
She gave us the lease with a resident in Fulton County on May 1st, 2025. At that same time, she was also living in and a mayor in Illinois and also a supervisor of a township in Illinois.
So that is the question. How can you live in Fulton County and be a mayor in Illinois at the same time on the same day? Those are questions that this board will now hope to answer. They have actually decided to have a residency hearing in April next week, next Thursday, April 9th. And at that time, they are expecting Henyard to come forward and explain exactly what all of this is about. We did also hear that it takes more than just where you live. It's also where you are registered to vote. Listen now to how she went about registering to vote here in Fulton County.
How did we receive her registration?
She registered through the online voter registration system. She applied for her Georgia driver's license February 26, 2026, and she registered February 27.
She is not MAGA. She on bullshit. And there's a video she did where she was saying that she understand how a Democrat Party is corrupt and she gonna flip Republican or you know what I'm saying? Nah. She's not MAGA. Don't vote for her, you guys. Do not vote for that woman. She is not MAGA. On the real. That's some straight fraud bullshit.
So the attorney says you have to have residency for 1 year before you take office. If she were to win this race, she would not take office until January of 2027. But there are a lot of questions before we get to that. And there are questions that hopefully will be answered next week when they have this residency hearing. Another thing that they talked about today is that they want to use their subpoena power to get lots of documents.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Let's grow. 1800, let's get it.
And to find out about utilities, when she may have had those turned on, and exactly what is going on here as it relates to her residency. I should also mention that she has been a Democrat for all of her elected life, but she has come to Fulton County and plans to run for District 5 as a Republican. Tom?
Yeah, Angelique, you're so good at sort of contextualizing the implications of races like this, elections like this. How important is this district that she is running in? And then what about the partisan split there? Do they...
Right, Janelle, on the real. She'll be in an orange jumpsuit. You can't be doing that, man. You playing with people's feelings and all that. Straight send off. That's not cool. Lock her ass up.
Overwhelmingly one way or the other?
Well, this is District 5. This is a district in South Fulton. It's been overly Democratic. Marvin Arrington Jr., the attorney, and son of Marvin Arrington Sr., who was on the Atlanta City Council for many, many years. His son has had this position and has represented this area, which has been a Democratic area. Now, there are already 4 Democratic candidates in this race. She has decided to run as a Republican. So that would be very interesting because she, in effect, becomes the only Republican in the race.
Interesting.
Smart woman. She playing the system.
She's able to appeal to voters in, as you say, that largely Democratic district, District 5.
Well, I'm going to call Nate the lawyer because he's done a lot of videos on Ms. Henyard, and again, I just want voters to be aware of the shenanigans that are happening. How was she registered to vote in planning this move while she was still in her job? That's crazy. And then she completely switches parties. That's even crazier. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. It's one of those stories where y'all like, AB, cover it, and we're doing it. So,
don't worry about it. I got you. You said Nate the lawyer. Yep.
We'll talk about it down there.
There you go.
The Fulton County Board of Elections is meeting to discuss candidate Tiffany Henyard's qualifications.
This is Nate the lawyer. Check him out. Subscribe to his channel. He be on it, man.
For the May primary.
So that is the question. How can you live in Fulton County and be a mayor in Illinois at the same time on the same day? Those are questions that this board
really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing. Name is Deunta. Just showing you guys common sense from different angles, different people, different talking points. Appreciate you guys. I'm watching this with you guys. I'm learning and taking it all in. Appreciate it.
Another investigation. Now, the Georgia authorities are looking into what could be election fraud against Tiffany Henyard. Okay, here's a quick message from our video sponsor, Chapter. Now, in my line of work, the most worst mayor in America, by like everyone, if you're a right-winger, a left-winger, whoever, this was by far the worst mayor in America. Now, I can go into all the details on how she hires sex offenders to go into people's houses, how she stole money, how even one of the council members said that she ordered a drive-by shooting. For the past couple of weeks, Tiffany Henyard has been having a rough go of things. First, her finance guy. His name is Keith Freeman. He was indicted on bankruptcy fraud and has now turned state's evidence against Tiffany Henyard. He was the guy who was running all of the finances when she was mayor. Former top Tiffany Henyard aide pleads guilty. Dalton, Illinois. Former top aide to South Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard.
Thank you. 1,800. Let's get it. 1,800 subscribers. Let's get it.
Other federal investigations. Now, Keith Freeman served as the manager in Dalton and administrator in Thornton Township. He and Henyard had a falling out, and Henyard started blaming Freeman for the mismanagement of the money. Now, Freeman pleaded guilty to lying.
And also, I want to appreciate you guys, subscribing to the channel. And today makes a year of no alcohol, period. Never was an alcoholic, but I did drink. But today makes a year, no alcohol, period. I just had to stop, tired of it. I'm a man of God, so drinking is not the thing I could be doing. And when I do talk to you guys, I want to talk to you guys common sense, focus, on point. So if you have an alcohol problem, just stop. It's okay. God got you. God is in control.
About his income and a conspiracy to commit bankruptcy fraud. And Freeman's deal calls for his sentence to be determined only after he cooperates on other cases. Now, after he flipped and now is working with the FBI, then Henyard got some more bad
Thank you, Jarnell. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
News, where her father was actually shot in the neck in Chicago.
The father of former Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is recovering after getting shot earlier this week. Henyard released a statement via social media confirming that her dad was a victim of, quote, random and heartbreaking violence.
So we're 2 minutes into the video. Her top finance guy flipped, her father has been shot, and we haven't even gotten to the most recent update. Now, as many of you know, Tiffany Henyard went from Illinois to Georgia and now is running for the Fulton County Commissioner seat.
A controversial politician from up north has relocated to Metro Atlanta and now wants to serve on the Fulton County Commission. She's been considered a viral sensation.
Emory University political scientist Andrew Gillespie points out that Henyard lost her seat in February of last year and quickly registered to vote here in Georgia.
She registered to vote here in Georgia on February.
I had tacos yesterday. Me and the wife went to Golden Corral. You know what I'm saying? Had about like 3 plates. And one of my plates, I got 3 tacos.
27th would give her the qualifications in order to meet the letter of the law in terms of what the standard is.
Now, because Henyard Henyard went viral on YouTube, members of the public found out that she was running for this county commissioner seat in Georgia and was like, hold on. How can she be a resident of Georgia, but she's the mayor in Illinois? That makes no sense.
Oh, yeah, happily married.
She's the supervisor of the township.
We have seen a lease for May 1st, 2020.
Got her initial tatted.
And on that same date, she was also still the mayor of a city in Illinois.
Yep.
We'll ask our attorney first to explain what the law is with regarding to determine if the Board of Superintendents can challenge. At the time that she gave us the lease with a resident in Fulton County on May 1st, 2025. At that same time, she was also...
Yeah, which I never did drink, you know, but it's cool. Yeah, my wife's name is Felicia. Yep. Bye, Felicia. I joke about that sometimes with her name. I don't wear it out, but yeah, her name is Felicia.
Living in and a mayor in Illinois and also a supervisor of a township in Illinois.
Now, here's criminal defense attorney Megan Grout. She's going to explain to us what Henyard did to register to vote in Georgia.
Now follow along.
Yeah, Janelle.
When she registers to vote, here is the voter registration page.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that.
Voter. And it doesn't, interestingly, it doesn't say that you have to provide proof of residency necessarily right away. It says you can submit it with the form or when you vote for the first time. So number one, and I would have to dig into this
almost
more,
there.
honestly.
1,800 subscribers. Almost there. Thank you, guys.
Provided information that she had some type of a Fulton County address when she registered to vote. I'm very curious about that.
Well, I can answer that question. Tiffany Henyard provided a lease for a place she was renting. Here's that proof.
Now, Henyard told Fulton County officials she has rented a house in the Chattering Springs subdivision in the southern part of the county.
How did we receive her registration?
She registered through the online voter registration system. She applied for her Georgia driver's license February 26, 2026, and she registered February 27th.
But you can register online. But where it gets even more interesting is when you look down to this part of the application to vote. It says, and she is swearing under oath that she resides at whatever address she gave, which was presumably somewhere in District 5 in South Fulton, and that she is eligible to vote in Georgia. So she is swearing that she is a resident here in Georgia. And then it says over here, there's a warning. Any person who registers to vote knowing that such person does not possess the qualifications required by law, who registers under any name other than such person's own name, or knowingly gives false information in registering shall be guilty of a felony. So on February 27, 2025, when she registered to vote in Fulton County, was she truly a resident of Fulton County?
All right, so let's talk this out. Henyard lost the primary election in February.
Breaking news as we come on the air tonight. It appears Tiffany Henyard is out. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Schneider.
I'm Dawn Hasbrook. Our Dane Placco has been the leader in breaking news on all of the Dalton drama. Dane, this sounds like a shocker.
Yeah, Tiffany Henyard didn't just lose tonight. You might call this a political annihilation. Her opponent, trustee Jason House, getting a 7-1 margin on over her tonight.
But losing the primary election doesn't mean you're not mayor. She's now still mayor until May of that year. But she's also Thornton Township supervisor until May of that year. But in February, she goes and registers to vote in Fulton County and gets a Fulton County driver's license in February. Now, during that same time, she's collecting paychecks from Dalton and Thornton Township because she's the mayor of Dalton and she's the supervisor of Thornton Township.
Georgia election records show that Henyard registered to vote down there on February 27th, just 2 days after voters gave her the boot in Dalton. That means even if she's elected in Georgia, she may not meet the year residency requirement.
And just so we're clear that she was the mayor and the supervisor up until May, here is some coverage of the new mayor and the new supervisor being sworn in May.
Self-proclaimed super mayor Tiffany Henyard leaves office in the next few weeks after being badly beaten at the ballot box.
Packed room tonight in the village of Dalton as the Tiffany Henyard era officially came to an end.
So now, February, she moves. We have March and April. She's still getting a paycheck from Illinois. She's still the mayor of Dalton. She's still the supervisor in Thornton Township. And to hold those positions, you have to be a resident in Illinois. So you can't be a resident in Illinois and at the same time be a resident in Georgia.
Let's get to 1,800 subscribers. Let's get it.
For instance,
1,800 subscribers.
Home in Florida. But Florida would not be your residency. It would be like you're taking a trip to Florida. You could stay there for a month at a time or however. You just be visiting Florida. But your residency is where you live and where you vote. And why is that important? Because you can only vote in one place at a time. Now, if you were to move from New York and change your residency to Florida, then you get your driver's license and you register to vote in Florida. And this is the issue that's coming up here in Georgia, is because Henyard had to be a resident in Illinois to have those two positions, the mayor and the supervisor. So it's impossible for her to be a resident in Illinois and also be a resident in Georgia at the same time. So the good people in Fulton County decided to open up an investigation to see if Henyard is actually eligible.
So that is the question. How can you live in Fulton County and be a mayor in Illinois at the same time on the same day? Those are questions that this board will now hope to answer. They have actually decided to have a residency hearing in April next week, next Thursday, April 9th. And at that time, they are expecting Henyard to come forward and explain exactly what all of this is about. They actually had a meeting this afternoon and made a decision to look into the residency of this very controversial candidate.
So we get to see Tiffany Henyard go in front of the elections board and explain how she was able to collect a paycheck as mayor of Dalton and as supervisor of Thornton Township, but at the same time claim to be living in Georgia with a Georgia's driver's license and registering to vote in Georgia at the exact same time. Now, I want to make it very clear that Tiffany Henyard's defense, I think, is going to be simple. She's going to say, yeah, I registered to vote in February. I got my driver's license changed over in February, but I didn't move until May. And I'm pretty positive she's going to say she was just preparing for the move. And she wanted to do all this stuff early so she didn't have to worry about it after she got down there. So my question to you is, the good Republicans in the state of Georgia, do you think it's a good idea to allow Tiffany Henyard to run under the Republican banner in Georgia? I don't know. I think that's a mistake. And what do you think about the election board down there in Fulton County? Do you think they're going to let Henyard run? It's going to be interesting because
give me a minute. I don't like that. I think you guys are updated about the Iran situation. That's all right. I'll get back to that later.
Is our great divide is now between those who
to hurt some of y'all feelings, but this needs to be said because I'm honestly getting sick of it. Chili from TLC being called the sellout for donating to Trump. Nick Cannon getting called the sellout because of what he's feelings, but this needs to be said because I'm honestly getting sick of it. Chili from TLC being called the sellout for donating to Trump. Nick Cannon getting called the sellout because of what he said about Democrats. And then we got black ICE agents getting called sellouts for doing their job. And every time I see that word sellout, I'm not even looking at the people that's being accused anymore. I'm looking at the person that's making the accusation. Who owned them? Who bought them? What was the price? Was Chili sold for a donation? Was Nick Cannon sold for his opinion? Were black ICE agents sold for a paycheck? Maybe it was you just couldn't handle the fact that they made a choice without running it past you first. So instead of saying you disagree like a normal person, you decided to reach for a word that's rooted in ownership. Because deep down, some of y'all don't believe in independence. You believe in assignment. A lot of you believe that Black people are assigned to think a certain way, vote a certain way, live within this narrow, approved version of Blackness that only you co-sign. But the minute somebody steps outside of that assignment, a lot of y'all brains start to short circuit. So you won't debate their ideas at all. You don't even try to reason with them. You don't even question your own goofy ass assumptions. You just shout, sellout. You know, almost like it's a spell that's supposed to bring them back in line. And I'm here to tell you right now, that's not intelligence. That's called conditioning. Hell, let me make it even more plain for you. You're literally using the language of slavery to attack other Black people for exercising their freedom. Let that sit with your spirit real quick. You're literally calling free choices evidence of being owned. That's how backwards this is to me. That's like watching somebody walk off a plantation and saying, nah, you must have been bought by another master. You know, it's like it almost never crosses your mind that maybe, just maybe, that Black man or Black woman belong to their damn self and not you.
I think that end was absolutely powerful, because you really have to think about this term sellout. What does that mean? I'm assuming what it means is a colloquial way of saying someone who has sold their soul, which means someone who's betrayed themselves on behalf or in service of another. So I think when he says at the end, the question is it that there's someone who owns themselves, or is it someone that is owned by you? That is a brilliant and prophetic question to really ask. And I think that is something right now the Black community is wrestling with. And I think the reason there's so much anger and vitriol on this side is because there is a transitioning happening in the Black community specifically, but in the general populace altogether, which is that we have spent about 70 or 80 years under the sort of auspices as race being the great divide. And I think that's changing. Race is no longer the great divide. And in fact, what's happening is our great divide is now between those who have conservative views and those who...
We do see Secretary Hegseth. Let's head over there and listen in live now.
Thanks for having me. Iran has been a threat to the United States and the free world. Strikes. We finished, complete the free world for 47 years. Chance of death to America, targeting our people, killing Americans.
This was an hour ago.
And blackmailing their way toward a nuclear weapon. So
Bloomberg.
No longer. Not on our watch. Other presidents marked time and kicked the can down the road. President Trump made history. From the
subscribe, everybody, if you haven't already. Appreciate it.
To tearing up the disastrous Obama-Iran deal, to the precision campaign that obliterated Iran's nuclear sites in Operation Midnight Hammer, to the decisive military victory we just achieved in Operation Epic Fury. No other president has shown the...
John Stewart, are you serious? You said Trump has more gay men in his cabinet than he has Black men. Are you serious? You forgot who Rachel Levine was in the Biden administration? Really? Every time Biden had an event, he always had some type of furry, frog, or some type of clown activity going on, circus over there in Biden administration. Are you serious?
The courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President Truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield.
Really, bro? This is what Biden had.
Military.
Really?
By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come.
Biden parade.
You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat. Together with our Israeli partners, America's military achieved every single objective, on plan, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one. Iran's Navy is at the bottom of the sea, whether it's the Soleimani class, their frigate class, their prized drone aircraft carriers, submarines, mine layers, sunk. Iran's Air Force has been wiped out. Iran no longer has an air defense, any sort of a comprehensive air defense system. We own their skies. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. And almost completely ineffective. Iran shot hundreds and hundreds of missiles and one-way attack drones
Stop
and
it,
our
bro.
aircraft carrier. They were obsessed with it, and they never got even close. Every single one of those shots easily shot down miles and miles away from the Abe Lincoln. They were blowing ammo into fantasy land. Contrast that with, most significantly, in last night's wave of more than 800 strikes, we finished completely destroying Iran's defense industrial base, a core pillar of our mission objective. What little they have left buried in bunkers is all they will have. They can still shoot, we know that. Their command and control is so decimated they can't really talk and coordinate, so they still may shoot here and there, but that would be very, very unwise. But they can no longer build missiles, build rockets, build launchers, or build UAVs. Their factories have been razed to the ground, set back in historic fashion. You see, had Iran refused our terms, the next targets would have been their power plants, their bridges, and oil and energy infrastructure. Targets they could not defend and could not realistically rebuild. It would have taken them decades, and we were locked and loaded. They couldn't defend against it. President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes, but he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. The new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them. This new regime just happened to look at what happened to their predecessors. Their top leadership was systematically eliminated. Their previous Iranian supreme leader, dead. The Supreme National Security Council Secretary, dead. The Supreme Leader Office Advisor, dead. The Supreme Leader Military Office Chief, dead. The Defense Minister, no longer with us. The IRGC Commander.
Yeah, I responded to what somebody said in the chat. He was saying that Trump administration is gay and get more gay men than black. I'm like, really? That makes no sense. And Joe Biden, all 4 years, was pandering to the monkey ball.
Dead. The Armed Forces General Staff Commander.
I mean, do you all day?
The Intelligence
You
Minister.
grown? Do you leave the
Dead.
kids alone?
The IRGC Navy Commander, no longer here. The IRGC Intel Chief, dead. I skipped over a bunch, and I could go on and on and on, to include the new so-called new Supreme Leader wounded and disfigured. This new regime was out of options and out of time, so they cut a deal. They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon. Under the terms, any nuclear material they should have will be removed. Any material, they should not have will be removed. Right now, their dust is deeply buried and watched 24/7 overhead. The president has been clear from the beginning, there will be no Iranian nuclear weapons. Period. Full stop. Other presidents said it. President Trump did it. Operation Epic Fury Less than 6 weeks, clear mission, decisive action, overwhelming firepower, America first, a historic battlefield victory. For decades, Iran killed Americans with roadside bombs in Iraq, using cowardly proxies to do their dirty work while they hid safely in Tehran. They struck our embassies with car bombs and attacked from the shadows, never daring to face us toe-to-toe. They thought they could bleed America with impunity. Well, they just learned the hard way what happens when you try to fight us directly. And even when they got lucky, one time in 40 days, and down 2 of our pilots, they couldn't hold them. In a daring 14-hour rescue operation, 7 hours in daylight and 7 hours of night, both pilots were recovered safely. Not once, but twice. A daylight thunder run right up the middle of their country. Boots on the ground. A midnight raid right up the middle of their country. Boots on the ground. 0 American casualties. The Iranians humiliated and demoralized. We control their fate, not the other way around. That's why they came to the table.
Okay, bye.
Iran's defeat is America's retribution for every American lost to Iranian terror, especially those brave troops killed by Iranian-made roadside bombs in Iraq that my generation knows so well, and for the suffering their regime has inflicted around the world. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part. We stand ready in the background to ensure Iran upholds every reasonable term. And as everyone knows, nobody makes a better deal than President Trump. To the warriors of epic fury, I say well done. You're the backbone of our country. Your skill, your bravery, and sheer guts and grit showed the world what America is all about. I'm proud of you. We're proud of you. President is proud of you. Job well done. But stay vigilant and stay ready. To the families of our fallen, your sacrifice was in service of a historic cause, and we will always remember your heroes, our heroes. We will continue to honor them. And to our Israeli allies, thank you for being a brave, capable, and willing ally on this battlefield. The rest of the world and the rest of our so-called allies saw what real capabilities look like. They should take some notes. Our troops, our American warriors, deserve the credit for this day. But God deserves all the glory.
Amen to that. Amen, amen.
Refuelings and strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. A massive effort.
I'm Canadian, that's what's up.
Miraculous
Welcome
protection.
to the chat.
Dude 44 Bravo spoke for
Bun,
all of
welcome
us.
to the chat.
God is good. The chairman will now provide an even deeper military detail on the historic success of Operation Epic Fury. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here. I want to start this morning by honoring the 13 members of our American Joint Force who were killed in action thus far during this operation. Their sacrifice and that of their families is deeply important to us, and we are grateful for each of them, and will continue to mourn their loss. Their names and their bravery will never be forgotten. On February 28th, the President of the United States ordered the Joint Force to execute Operation Epic Fury with the direction to accomplish
you're right. It's a
three
big
distinct
difference.
military objectives: destroy Iran's ballistic missile and drone capabilities, destroy the Iranian Navy, and destroy their defense industrial base to ensure that Iran cannot reconstitute the ability to project power outside their borders. Over the course of 38 days of major combat operation, the Joint Force achieved the military objectives as defined by the President. We welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the Joint Force remains ready if
Thank you guys for being in the chat. Really appreciate it. My name is Deunta.
With
Thank
the
you,
same
thank you.
speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days, and we hope that that is not the case. I want to congratulate and thank the leadership today at U.S. Central Command, including the Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, the Deputy Commander Lieutenant General Kevin Leahy, the Senior Enlisted Leader Fleet Master Chief
He's the president. What do you mean by that?
Every one of the component commanders, senior enlisted leaders, and especially the staff down at U.S. Central Command, who does not get called out for any of the credit, but grinds 24/7 to help offer the options that we bring to the Secretary and the President. I also want to highlight the forces in the United States European Command under the command of Alexis Grinkowicz, who protected the western flank in support of CENTCOM. And I want to thank our partners across the intelligence community. Our ability to see and understand what an adversary is doing help us to be on the battlefield. And that includes DIA, NSA, NGA, the CIA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, and others. I want to thank the other combatant commands who have thus far contributed along the way to U.S. Central Command. This includes Transcom, Stratcom, Spacecom, SOCOM, and Cybercom, all of whom poured all in support of CENTCOM's efforts. And I want to thank, as the Secretary did, our Gulf partners who fought alongside each and every one of us every day. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, all who joined us together to defend and protect our people and our assets, and who, if required, stand ready to do so again. And I want to thank my team at the Joint Staff who work literally around the clock in order to help me offer the options that I must with the associated risks to the Secretary and to the President. They are the hardest working people that I know, and I am deeply grateful for their service. Most importantly today, I want to thank America's members of the Joint Force who've poured everything that they can into Operation Epic Fury, and their families who've worked 24 hours a day for 38 days. The Secretary and I could not be more proud of each and every one of you. And we deeply appreciate the support of the American people, who we know always have us in our thoughts and prayers. And we can feel this literally every single day. As the Secretary said, the United States has devastated the regime's ability to harm Americans and our interests for years to come. Since the beginning of major combat operations, the United States Joint Force has struck more than 13,000 targets, including in that 13,000, more than 4,000 dynamic targets that popped up on the battlefield and were immediately addressed, thanks to the exceptional command and control system and intelligence, acumen, and agility of our Joint Force. CENTCOM forces destroyed approximately 80% of Iran's air defense systems, striking more than 1,500 air defense targets, more than 450 ballistic missile storage facilities, 800 one-way attack drones storage facilities. All of these systems are gone. We've devastated Iran's command and control and logistical networks, destroying more than 2,000 command and control nodes and degrading their ability to target U.S. and friendly forces. It is, and we know this, incredibly frustrating right now to be a lower level Iranian commander trying to fight your fight. As the Secretary said, the Iranian Navy now lies mostly at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf, and we assess that we've sunk more than 90% of their regular fleet, including all of the major surface combatants, as the Secretary said. 150 ships are at the bottom of the ocean, and half of the IRGC Navy's small attack boats. Joint fires protected from the land, sea, and air executed more than 700 strikes against naval mine targets, and we assessed that we destroyed more than 95% of their naval mines. And perhaps most importantly, we've destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, their ability to reconstitute those capabilities for years to come. We attacked, along with our partners, approximately 90% of their weapons factories. Every factory that produced Shahed one-way attack drones was struck. Every factory that produces the guidance systems that go into those drones was struck. Their missile defense industrial base is shattered, with more than 80% of their missile facilities gone, as well as their solid rocket motor production capability. It will take years for Iran to rebuild any major surface combatants, as more than 20 naval production and fabrication facilities have been damaged or destroyed, and nearly 80% of Iran's nuclear industrial base was hit, further degrading their attempts to attain a nuclear weapon. Throughout Operation Epic Fury, our joint force struck at the heart of Iran's ability to project power and threaten the United States and the region. And in order to do this, it required the service and sacrifice of more than 50,000 American warfighters deployed across CENTCOM, EUCOM, and stateside. The joint force flew more than 10,000 missions, including 62 bomber missions, 18 of which flew round trip from the United States to deliver bombs on military targets. Each of these missions was more than 30 hours in duration, and we did that 18 times. No other military in the world can do that. And it's a testament to the logistical force that quietly serves behind them. I cannot thank Transcom and the Air Force Tanker and Mobility Force more. Combined with Army and Navy joint fires, we struck more than 13,000 targets. And along with our Gulf partners, we've thus far intercepted 1,700 ballistic missiles and one-way attack drones, defending our forces and our partners in the civilian population. And we remain ready to do so should the need arise. Along the way, we consume more than 6 million meals, and by my estimate, more than 950,000 gallons of coffee, 2 million energy drinks, and a lot of nicotine, but I am not saying that we have a problem. I've laid out the statistics, but it does not truly capture the nature of combat. This is gritty and unforgiving business. It's chaotic, it's hot, it's dark, it's unpredictable, and there's always unknowns. And our people proudly walked into those unknowns and continue forward. And through it all, the Joint Force has demonstrated the unwavering resolve that the nation demands of us. We are a mission-focused force, and our objectives always is to create the conditions for peace, and today we have, while be ready should that peace break, which we hope it is not, and we remain ready. Before I turn it back to the Secretary, I also want to quickly revisit the rescue of the Air Force fighter crew over the weekend. To give you an update, we've had, the Secretary and I have had the profound honor
Subscribe if you guys haven't. Subscribe.
Fighters on that mission, from the downed crew that were picked up to those forces that went and got them. Hearing these stories firsthand has only deepened our appreciation for their tenacity, creativity, courage, and grit of the American Joint Force. This is a story that gets to the very heart and soul of who we are as a joint force, who we are as Americans. Selfless sacrifice in service of others. From the backseater, Dude 44 Bravo, whose pure and unadulterated joy at seeing those helicopters come into the valley to get his front seater in daylight, because he knew the front seater did not have a jacket, and was so filled with heart-leaping joy at his front seater getting picked up, to the nighttime folks that went in and then got him, to the tanker forces that did the things that they had to do to give their own gas away, to the support packages, to those that went into the desert landing site not once, not twice, but 3 times as we fought through multiple contingencies. This was and is a joint force that has the guts to try, that does not quit, and who each and every day does the things that we must to dare to win. No lives were lost. We succeeded because the joint force is always at the ready. They trust each other, they trust their leaders, and they trust their training. And they remember first, foremost, and always that we do these things so that others may live, and we will never leave anyone behind. The success of Operation Fury thus far, and we hope it remains, culminates with this incredible rescue over the weekend, a direct example of the professionalism and courage of the United States military and our joint force. It's the service members on the front lines, our partners in the region, our teammates in the intelligence community, our civilian leaders.
2 hours in the chat,
OSW
you guys. 2
side of the
hours in.
House,
Thank you guys for being in the chat.
American
We
workers
2
who build
hours
the tools
in.
and weapons
Thank
that
you,
we
thank you.
use, and the American people who back us up that help us to go do these things. I stand here humbled today, but frankly not surprised by what the Joint Force has been able to do. Their performance is fueled by a deep commitment to each other, their mission, and to our country. It is an incredible, deep honor for me to be a part of this Joint Force, and I'm humbled by the service and sacrifice each and every day that I am lucky enough to see. And finally, as I always do, I ask that we never forget our fallen and their families, especially those 13 fallen from Operation Epic Fury. May we always be worthy of their sacrifice and honor their legacy. And with that, sir, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Secretary of Defense from the Pentagon. There are two headlines just out moments ago, just to color these both from the Financial Times. Saudi Arabia's East-West oil pipeline is hit by a drone attack. An East-West oil pipeline pumping station hit as well at 1 p.m. Saudi time. To the Pentagon.
Obviously, Mr. Secretary, you just mentioned, we know the scars from hanging around in Iraq for decades. But what does that entail in terms of our military presence at this juncture?
Yeah, we'll be hanging around. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make sure Iran complies with this ceasefire and then ultimately comes to the table and makes a deal. So we'll stay put, stay ready, stay vigilant, as the chairman laid out. Our troops are prepared to defend, prepared to go on offense, prepared to restart at a moment's notice with whatever target package would be needed in order to ensure that Iran complies. As far as the Strait, you saw the initial agreement that was struck, which is Iran's letting ships go through. So there'll be that will be happening. They will be sailing, and ultimately, as the president, we've done an incredible job militarily inside the Strait of Hormuz. What Admiral Cooper, I failed to mention Admiral Cooper's name. He's done a phenomenal job along with everybody at AFCENT and NAPCENT and ARCENT and all the components down there, laying the groundwork for Iran. Iran doesn't have the same ability to defend it the way they did before. And so as the president has pointed out to the rest of the world, we barely get any of our energy out of the Strait, just a tiny fraction. It's time for the rest of the world to step up and ensure that that stays open after President Trump and the War Department brought Iran to the place where they're voluntarily opening it right now, as was announced last night. Yes, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you both for the update. President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning that there has been a very productive regime change in Iran, and that there will be no enrichment of uranium, and the U.S. will work with Iran to dig up and remove the deeply buried nuclear dust. So I just have two questions here. So both you, Mr. Secretary, and the President have referred to a new regime in Iran. So is this not the regime that was at war with us for 47 years? And what do we think of when we're saying that this is a new regime? What are we thinking and what are we saying there? And then my second question is, with any future deal with Iran, is their handing over of all of their enriched uranium and they're promising not to enrich any future uranium a non-negotiable for the U.S.?
It's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried. We're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon or the capability to get a path to one. As far as the new regime, you heard the list that I read. It's a new group of people who've seen the full capability of the United States military and has a new calculus about what it means to negotiate with us, hence why they came to the table wanting a ceasefire and the shooting to stop. So this new regime, which the regime has been changed, has a different interaction with the U.S. right here.
Mr. Secretary, thank you.
Of course. I was going in front right here.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary and General Kane. Mary Margaret with the Daily Wire. 2 questions. Iran has said that safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible in coordination with Iran's armed forces and, quote, technical limitations. What do you believe that means? And then we've also heard reports that Iran has continued striking targets well into this morning. At what point are we beyond a grace period? Are we giving them a grace period? Is there a miscommunication there? What's going on with that?
What we know is that Iran is going to say a lot of things. A lot of people are going to say a lot of things, claim a lot of things. What has been agreed to, what's been stated, is the strait is open. Our military is watching. I'm sure their military is watching, but commerce will flow. And that's what you saw the markets react to, is that reality.
Good morning, Kathy.
As far as shooting that, we were
good
monitoring
afternoon.
it last night in real time. Of course we are. Iran would be wise to find a way to get the carrier pigeon to their troops out in remote locations to know not to shoot any longer. One-way attacks or missiles, because this takes time sometimes for ceasefires to take hold. We're watching it. We're prepared if
Dave
necessary.
Pooler, good morning.
We hope and believe that it'll hold. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Why are you so rude? Just wait. I'm
Just
calling on
wait.
people.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Yesterday in the President's Truth Social, he threatened to wipe out a civilization. That statement elicited a huge response in America. If Iran did not come to the table and make a deal yesterday by the deadline, was the president really prepared to wipe out Iran entirely?
Like I said, we had a target set, locked and loaded, of infrastructure, bridges, power plants. Remember, this is a terror regime, military regime. Use all of these things for dual use to fund their military, to fund their terror campaigns. We had a lot of legitimate targets. They knew exactly the scope of what we were capable of. We hit some military targets on Karg, which is a bit of a signal. They can't defend it. And so Iran ultimately understood their ability, their future, to produce, to generate power, to fuel their terrorist regime was in our hands, was in President Trump's hands. That's why they came to the table. He ultimately said, we can take it all from you. Your ability to export energy will be taken away. And the United States military has the ability to strike those things with impunity. That type of threat is what brought them to the place where they effectively say, hey, okay, we want to cut this deal. Yes, right here.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman. David Zier, Real America's Voice. During the ceasefire, what do we do when we see Iran rearming, regrouping, repositioning weapon systems and air defenses? And also, have we confirmed the specific model type of air defense or man pads that took down our F-15? And is it still a threat for our patrols? We're still working through the specific details around that particular down. And the crews, when they normally return, go through a debriefing process along with the other members of that flight that were out there. And they'll go back, as they always do, and forensically look at what are the tactical lessons learned. Did we sense or see something? Could we have done something different? We do that, as I mentioned in a prior press conference, every single time we take any loss like that, so that we become a quick learning organization. On the other part of your question around the movement of Iranian military forces, U.S. CENTCOM will continue to monitor that situation. They will continue to have a series of response options, and if need be, will come to the Secretary and to the President for guidance and be prepared to do the things that they're ordered to do so against valid military targets in accordance with the normal procedures that we have.
I would just note, it's a good question. The more Iran moves forces, the more they emplace forces, the more easily targetable they are for us right now. Remember, we're able to look, we're able to see, we're able to sense. We know so if they try to preposition, they're just creating riper military targets for us to strike should they make the wrong decision at the table. Right here.
Mr. Secretary, Louis Martinez with ABC News. First, a question to General Kane, sir. In your personal opinion, were the risks of the Strait of Hormuz being closed because of the conflict, were they mitigated early enough in part of the decision-making process to lead up to the decision to take action against Iran? And in your opinion, is Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz? We just heard the Secretary say that Iran is letting the ships through. which would imply that potentially it's not just. The secretary also said that in the U.S. That the strait is open. You did say that, sir. But in your opinion, sir, how can the U.S. ensure safe passage? Mr. Secretary, can you say today that the United States achieved the administration achieved the military goals that you've constantly delineated? But strategically, is that a victory because of that? And also,
U.S. just made Iran strong.
Shows mercy.
We blew their stuff up. How they strong? All that stuff is blowing up.
Ago that we will give no
That's crazy.
No quarter to Iranian troops. How do you correlate those two? And do you think that your comments may have put American troops at risk?
No. I try to be nice up here, but you did listen to what I said, right? I laid out the objectives. We believe we've accomplished them, and it's a historic military victory. And President Trump has the option as the commander-in-chief to compel an adversary to the table, which is precisely what he did. And at the end, he chose to say, you know what, I'd rather talk to you at the table than obliterate your capability to export oil and fund your terror regime. So he did make that choice. That was his choice. He was a president of peace, and he's been willing to make those really tough calls that the American people elected him to do. Nothing we've done, not a single thing we've done. It's a typical, of course, it's ABC. Not a single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. We've only set our troops up to harm Iranian military capabilities, which they've done to devastating fashion and to great success. Mr. Chairman, you had a
There's a lot in that question. I'd love to take that offline and answer it, but I'm struggling to find exactly what your question was, and that's probably me, not you. Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman, it was an indictment framed as a question, so you're forgiven for understanding. Go ahead, please. No, you've had your chance. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I believe so, based on the diplomatic negotiations. I believe so. I believe so. Sorry.
Mr. Kurd or Rahim Rashidi from Kurdistan. I'm representative Kurdistan TV and Kurdistan 24 today. I have two questions. Mr. Secretary, will your forces stay in the region and continue to defend and protect your allies and take the responsibility for their security? Second question is, as you mentioned, many times that you have full control of Iran airspace. Do you still have this control or not?
Well, thank you for the question. The chairman mentioned the UAE and Bahrain and Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, who have fought shoulder to shoulder with us, especially in defense of our facilities, of
Thank you.
their facilities, and we appreciate that. So that
almost 1,800 subscribers, almost there. Thank you,
when it comes
guys.
to the skies over Iran, I would point to Exhibit A and Exhibit B, 7 hours in the day, 7 hours at night. If any foreign adversary attempted to do the same over our soil, they would have no ability to do so. Will they have a system here or there? Maybe. Do they have a network, a system that's capable of defending their skies? No, they don't. It's, as the chairman laid out, that's been dismantled, degraded, and destroyed. So it's a slight distinction, but an important one. Yes, right here. Go ahead. Excuse me. You got a question? Go ahead.
Yes. Two questions actually for you. So during this time, is the president are you still encouraging civilians to rise up against the Iranian regime, or are they satisfied with this new regime change, or is this two-week period to kind of see where that leads? Also, talk about the enriched uranium going in there. Would that require special forces or other military, our service members? Who would be basically going in there, trusted to going in there to get that uranium out?
Mm-hmm. Again, on the uranium, we're watching it. We know what they have, and they will give it up, and we'll get it, and we'll take it. If we have to, we can do it in any means necessary. So that's something the president is going to solve for. We already have with Midnight Hammer, with the place we put them in, and the reason it's in the situation where it is. The second one was about the people. Listen, I would love to see the Iranian people take advantage of this opportunity. They have been oppressed by the previous regime, and they'll have a new opportunity with this regime that remains.
Not right now, because I only have 20 seconds. I'm sorry. But I do
Don't
want to
insult my intelligence. That you're not.
Hang on. The gentleman's time.
I'm not insulting
Okay, you're trying to insult me like I'm not aware of what's going on here.
Thank you.
Okay? I'm fully aware of what's going on here.
Gentleman will suspend. Gentleman gets another 15 seconds.
Thank you.
That's why I walked away from the plantation of the Democratic Party.
You gotta love hearing stuff like that, right? Gotta love it. You gotta
love it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Oh, wow. Almost there. 1800. Almost there.
In past videos of Black people waking up and realizing I can do and vote for more than just the Democrat Party. I don't have to simply vote Democrat. And it's a beautiful thing. I absolutely love it. The veil is falling, ladies and gentlemen, and it is amazing to see. Let's dive into it, shall we?
Let's dive in. Let's do it.
Let me show you how racist Trump is. This don't make no damn sense.
Donald Trump stood up and said this.
I'm going to stick up for him because nobody else is, but I don't believe it.
Trump angrily criticized the mother who accused Michael of child molestation.
And she goes after him viciously and violently, and I don't believe it.
Oh, no, not that one. This one is better. This is racism.
I always remember him for being a good guy, paying me a lot of money, giving my friends rooms and free food. He was good to everybody when he was giving them free tickets and free hotel room.
He then.
Well, we don't need to go through the case again.
It's ridiculous. The woman was dancing at 8 o'clock, and this guy's in jail for 6 years. I don't understand it. I think it's wrong.
Yeah, but due process of law prevailed. So
I
then
think
you
you're
came
one of the worst defense lawyers I've ever seen.
Seemed like the real racist was David Letterman for questioning Donald Trump for taking up for Mike Tyson. All right, disregard that one. What about this?
When we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, we gave us space at 40 Wall Street, which was to me.
Bud, you missed it. I showed about like maybe 5 videos about fraud, Democrats and they fraud BS. Now I'm going to show this and another video about how, get off their plantation. Get off their plantation.
Make a statement about our having a presence there.
He said, listen, I want some office space in your building on Wall Street. And I said, it's okay, Jesse, I'll make a good deal with you. I'll get you some space. You'll pay about $40 a foot. And he said, no, I don't want to pay 40. I said, how about 30? No. It was the cheapest deal I ever made in the history of 40 Wall Street. He got it for nothing. He's a very tough negotiator.
Hold on. What type of white racist 100% fully endorses a Black candidate in Jesse Jackson while giving him building space for free? Didn't charge him a dime. I want that type of racism. I meant to show you this one. This is a clear sign of racism. How you feel about the people that feel like Trump is racist?
So he's dated Black women before, like the woman he always showed up with on the red carpet thing. She was one fine model right before his current wife.
Okay, bud, no problem.
Who is racist goes on national TV praising Black people about how they built the nation.
African Americans built this nation. You're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that.
I'm just saying, what type of white racist man would reach out to this Black woman and shine a light on what happened to her and to help her out so much and to give her praise as much as he did?
One of those who knows the importance of this mission is Felicia Cook, a lifelong Washingtonian who tragically lost her grandson to violence in 2017. Felicia, we're so sorry. And
my wife, man, is amazing.
Spectacular person. If you could say a few words.
18. Oh, wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I like
almost there. Thank you so much.
Please.
Thank God for this president.
Boom. Thank you, guys.
Into this republic.
Really appreciate it. Almost at 2,000 now. Thank you. Thank you.
Me in my home. Have you ever heard of a thing? I love her. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about that racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be stand up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job.
Listen, I don't care what you're saying. Trump's still racist because I think he is, and that's the bottom line. I don't give a damn.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
The mindset of a leftist needs to be studied, evaluated, and treated. They're just never right. Pun intended. Have a great day, my fellow Americans.
Yeah, they're never right. They're never right. I think Uncle Trump deserves a third term, right? A third term where, mainstream media and Democrats are shunned to the far corners of society. We don't want to hear their crap anymore. Not literally, of course, but we don't want to hear their crap anymore. For 8 years now, well, really longer than that, but the 8 years that Trump has been in office, all they've talked about is doom and gloom. Oh, the walls are closing in. Oh, he's done it now. Oh, my goodness. World War III. The sky is falling. The economy is crashing. We're going into the Great Depression. He's going to, oh, my good. That's all it's ever been. Can the man get 4 years where it's just not a bunch of hoopla? Can he just get 4 years of just regular politics?
Right. We see Donald Trump, what he's doing. Biden was in the basement, auto pen. I think for like 3 years straight, auto pen. Only 1 year he probably did his executive orders by himself. But other than that, it was all auto pen. That shit crazy. We see what Trump doing. The man campaigned. We seen him do it. He's on it.
I think it's cool if Democrats don't want to agree with with everything that he wants to do. That's normal. That's life. But when you got a party that literally says anything that he does is bad, anything that he says is the worst thing ever, we got some problems.
He said, hate the Constitution. Problems. That's crazy.
The party has gone off the deep end. And listen,
I love the Constitution.
I may not vote Democrat now, I hope that there comes a day that I'm able to vote Democrat again. Because that's what would make this country truly great, right? When you got two parties that are America first competing for our votes. That would be beautiful to see. Two parties that are genuinely America first, they just go about it just tiny little different ways, tweak things here and there. This party does these certain things in this party, and just a little tweaks over here. That would be absolutely beautiful. I would love to actually be able to sit here and ponder, who am I actually going to vote for this year? I would love for that to be a genuine question. I would love it. I think it's going to take a while, but hopefully we'll get there one day. Let's move on to the next clip.
To see black people succeed, black people. But white supremacy is the problem, right? Okay. Yet it is black people who commit the most violence against black people. And when black people kill other black...
Tag Fam TV. Okay, no problem, man. I definitely would like to do that. Link up with you. That's what's up.
Black people, it is black people who tell them that's gangster. Because black lives don't matter to black people until white people end them. Which means it takes white people to get you.
Yeah, you see it. Definitely patriotic. I know Trump can't be no third-term president. But I'm still going to say Trump 2028. That's the troll. Why not?
People to care about our people. But white supremacy is the problem, right? Okay. Yet it is black people who have made blackness synonymous with ignorance by insisting that degeneracy, self-destruction, and street culture are a fundamental part of black culture. It is black people who have made blackness synonymous with victimhood by telling black people that they're not black enough if they don't believe that white people are their oppressors. But white supremacy is the problem, right? Okay. Matter of fact, maybe you're right. Because the black people who've convinced other black people that they can't get ahead without the acceptance, assistance, and permission of white people sure sound a lot like white supremacists to me.
Kind of funny how that works, isn't it? Kind of funny how that works. So true. It's all so true. Could have said it any better myself. Could have said it any better. As well as this guy right here, he has it on point too. They're the genuine cult, not us.
Yeah, I noticed that, man. I appreciate you, Tack, on the real. Appreciate you subscribing, coming back.
Black Democrats had turned into a motherfucking court. Like, Jim Jones and all the other different cars that we had, the Charles Manson family, and what other terrorist cults we had. We're getting just like them. We so brainwashed.
Thank you, guys. Deunta is the name.
To attack, to belittle, to disrespect people for a political machine that brainwashing your goofy ass every day. It's crazy, black people. Y'all are a black political fucking court, and it's getting sick. If you just sit back in the mirror and watch yourself how you respond to certain shit when people talk about certain other stuff that you don't agree with when it comes down to politics, and you see your reaction, you will be disappointed in yourself. Peace out, boss.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. It's the blind leading the blind, and they're all in one big cult. What was the cult that like drank the Kool-Aid and they all died? What cult was that? I'm sure you guys will type it in the comment section, but that's the Democrat Party for you. Whatever the establishment says in the Democrat Party, everybody else over there, right, in the Democrat Party follows along, fall in line, right? Oh, this is the new talking point? Yes, sir, massa. Yes, sir. J.D. Vance is weird. Y'all remember that? When they are all just randomly, just out of the blue.
Like Jim Jones
started trying to call J.D. Vance weird. What was weird is that they were all saying it at the same time as if we weren't going to notice. As if that wasn't obvious that it was coordinated. Yes, sir, massa. And yet a lot of them would say that I am the house in word. But they're the one taking demands and following along. Goodness gracious. Anyway, it's great to see people waking up, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. And I don't think this momentum will slow down anytime soon. I think it's full steam ahead at this point. It's full steam ahead, It's beautiful to see it. People posting it online so anybody and everybody can consume it. It's not just whispered about behind closed doors. I love it. I love it. We need more of it. And I think we will get more of it in
And those who have liberal views.
Sick of it.
We're going to finish one out.
Chili from TLC being called the sellout for donating to Trump. Nick Cannon getting called the sellout because of what he said about Democrats. And then we got black ICE agents getting called sellouts for doing their job. And every time I see that word sellout, I'm not even looking at the people that's being accused anymore. I'm looking at the person that's making the accusation. Who owned them? Who bought them? What was the price? Was Chili sold for a donation? Was Nick Cannon sold for his opinion? Were black ICE agents sold for a paycheck?
Like and subscribe. Yes. Like and subscribe.
They made a choice without running it past you first. So instead of saying you disagree like a normal person, you decided to reach for a word that's rooted in ownership.
Thank you, guys.
Because deep down, some of y'all don't believe in independence. You believe in assignment. A lot of you believe that black people are assigned to think a certain way, vote a certain way, live within this narrow, approved version of blackness that only you co-sign.
Right, because Trump gonna put us back in chains. Uh-oh.
But the minute somebody steps outside of that assignment, a lot of y'all brains start to short circuit. So you won't debate their ideas at all. You don't even try to reason with them. You don't even question your own goofy ass assumptions. You just shout, sell out. Almost like it's a spell that's supposed to bring them back in line. And I'm here to tell you right now, that's not intelligence. That's called conditioning. Hell, let me make it even more plain for you. You're literally using the language of slavery to attack other black people for exercising their freedom. Let that sit with your spirit real quick. Sell out. Almost like it's a spell that's supposed to bring them back in line.
Gotta play that again.
And I'm here to tell you right now, that's not intelligence. That's called conditioning. Hell, let me make it even more plain for you. You're literally using the language of slavery to attack other black people for exercising their freedom.
Amazing.
Let that sit with your spirit real quick. You're literally calling free choices evidence of being owned. That's how backwards this is to me. That's like watching somebody walk off a plantation and saying, nah,
you must have been bought by another master. You know, it's like it almost never crosses your mind that maybe, just maybe, that black man or black woman belong to their damn self and not you.
I think that end was absolutely powerful.
Like and subscribe.
Really have
My
to
man
think
was
about
cooking.
this term sellout. What does that mean? I'm assuming what it means is a colloquial way of saying someone who has sold their soul, which means someone who's betrayed themselves on behalf or in service of another. So I think when he says at the end, the question is it that there's someone who owns themselves, or is it someone that is owned by you? That is a brilliant and prophetic question to really ask. And I think that is something right now the Black community is wrestling with. And I think the reason there's so much anger and vitriol on this side is because there is a transitioning happening in the Black community specifically, but in the general populace altogether, which is that we have spent about 70 or 80 years under the sort of auspices as race being the great divide. And I think that's changing. Race is no longer the great divide. And in fact, what's happening is our great divide is now between those who have conservative views and those who have liberal views, no matter what race you are. So like I said, if you got a Black liberal woman and a white liberal woman and you list the their top 10 priorities, 8 of them would be the same. There's almost no significant difference between Black and white liberals. And truthfully, there's not a significant difference between Black and white conservatives. So what's happening is old Black people who are stuck on the plantation are sitting around going race, 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 class, gender. And this is their worldview, and this is how they see everything. And they are perplexed by Black people, and a growing number of Black people who are moving out of that paradigm and are saying, no, that's not us. And they say, well, wait a second, you got to be over here because this is our paradigm. This is what we believe in. We see the world through racial lens. And there are other Black people saying, no, there's a whole lot of different ways to see the world in which race can be included, but it isn't the primary feature. I had, as most of us do, over Easter, a conversation which turned political with a relative of mine. Once we start talking about politics, things go off the rails. But I made this point in that conversation. I said, in the United States, this is a cousin who's Black. In the United States, we think about race because we think of race as a key feature in our society. I said, but in other societies, race is not a key feature. Because he was saying Latinos are so upset that voted for Trump. And I said, well, no, not the conservative ones aren't. They're not upset that they voted for Trump. And I said, because for them, they come from a society that may not be, race may not be a key feature. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, there's societies where religion is the key feature of the society. There are societies where class is the key feature of society. Most of the world, race is not a key feature. In fact, very few places where race is a key feature. So when you look at the world and you think, oh, well, it's a Black this and a white that, so now I know the dynamic. But they may live in a place, I said, if you go someplace, they care more about whether you're Shiite or whether you're Sunni than they care if you're Black. They care more about if you are nobility or if you're middle class, whether or not you're Black. There are other societies where they care about how much wealth you have, whether or not you're Black or whether or not you're white. So most of the world is not living under a race paradigm. And what the problem here is, many Black people in America are no longer living under a race paradigm. And these people are becoming increasingly frustrated by the fact that they can't understand that because they're still stuck under that race paradigm.
Let's hit it on the head. And, I've dealt with that, honestly, my entire life. Being from the family that I have where there are, white people, Black people, Hispanic people, and Native Americans, you deal with that in America where they only see you, meaning the liberals. I grew up in DC. They only see you as one thing. And so they automatically expect for your thoughts, your dreams, what you want to do in life, just everything to surround around being a liberal ideas. You go to, these liberal schools. All of my education is extremely liberal, all the way up to NYU, so it's all liberal. And then you get out and you're not. And they haven't figured out how to deal with that, because everybody that's not white is, to them, on the plantation. It doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, you speak Spanish, you speak Portuguese, it doesn't matter. So in the United States, there's that. And then you have to contend with the fact that it's a group of older folks, and let's just be frank, it's the baby boomers, okay? The baby boomers have taught the liberal ones, have taught the other generations that this is where you should be because of civil rights. When I assure you, most of, if not all of the millennials and Gen Z, but even some of the Gen X have never experienced what their parents and their grandparents have gone through. So with that being said, there's no ties to that. And it's more of a, okay, well, what have they done for me lately? What does this group do for me? But anytime you go to question that, it's a sense of, well, you are a sellout for asking that. You are going against the grain. You're harming your ancestors or other people's ancestors. It's always, a pushback, instead of looking at it as free thinking, looking at it as, well, how can we get, these communities out of poverty or out of this situation? It's never looked at that. And I think it's done that way purposely to keep certain communities in step and in line.
You're absolutely right. When you go to other nations, even, when you look in the continent of Africa, where everybody looks the same, they're dividing amongst themselves based off of, ideology. It could be religion. It could be whatever tribe, could be their family. It could be class. Look at India. India is full of Indians, but they have a caste system. Here, we're so stuck on this race thing. And you're absolutely right, Nika, in the stance that it is the baby boomers, but you have a lot of younger people that have been indoctrinated on these college campuses that spew this same type of nonsense. And we've been talking about it on this channel for quite some time that, honestly, we're really divided by ideology and rhetoric and beliefs. We're really divided about it. As much as they want to say it's race, it's really not. You get, Celeste said it, you get a black liberal and a white liberal together, they're going to agree on probably 85 to 90%, of what's going on in America. No different than, you get a group of conservatives, white, black, Hispanic, Asians, that are conservatives, they're going to agree. So it's really not a race thing anymore. And it probably hadn't been that for quite some time, although the only people that continue to bring it up is Democrats. That's the only one. Everybody else is kind of moved away from it. But you got this group of people, this 10%, this boule crowd of black folks, that anytime you decide to step out and say, you know what, I'm thinking for myself, they feel like it's their job, you know what I'm saying, to go out and capture you and bring you back.
And Ronan is a prime example.
Yeah.
And anybody that speaks, he has to come out and go to his iPad and tell everybody that you are not allowed to be a free thinker. If you do, you're hurting the black community. You're hurting black women and this, that, and the third. When honestly, all of the policies that I've ever seen in my lifetime and thereon hasn't helped anybody. Not black, not white, not anybody.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, the thing is, when you become a free thinker, you are actually a detriment to the Democrat Party because there's no room to think freely.
Right. We only one human race, man. We all bleed red. One human race, man. You're right. What's black, what's white, what's brown, what's yellow. One human race.
Out here that I know, he's running for office. Says he's a conservative, but he's a conservative Democrat, which is such an oxymoron. But jumps out there and it's just like, everything is race, you know, and it's black folks this, and he says, well, I'm Haitian, but, you know, I've talked to black people and they said that they don't, you know, see me the same, you know, as them. And I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, of course they don't, you know, so there's even division, you know, within that side of things. And that's what I was telling them. I'm like, dude, stop looking at everything through a racial lens, you know, and start looking at things through, you know, an ideological lens. And that would actually save you. It will save you mentally.
Honestly, that sellout, listen, it's my soul, not your soul. And the problem is this hive mindset has everyone believing that we are a collective. I was born by myself, unless I had a twin. I will die by myself. I will stand at judgment by myself. So whatever I do is up to me. I'm not selling out anybody because this is my life. And the problem with these people is they have this collective mindset, this hive mindset, where they think that we're all supposed to think the same, we're supposed to move the same. And if you decide to free think, then you're the problem. I'm sorry. Are you standing before judgment with me to explain my decisions? No, you're not. So when people make those statements, that just tells you where they sit in life. I agree with what Celeste was saying, because I was thinking the same thing. When you look in other parts of the world, like I said, I visited other parts of the world. I was in Italy. I was just American. It wasn't that I'm a Black American. I wasn't this. I was an American. They heard my accent. They're like, oh, she's from America. And that was it. I went to Greece and I was fumbling the Greek trying to talk to them. Again, they just saw me as an American. Don't talk about France. France was looking at me like, this stupid American that cannot pronounce anything in French. They didn't even want to hear from me because I couldn't speak their language. But here it's this black, white, this weird thing that we have going on. And when you really dig down deep, it really isn't black versus white. Because as we pointed out, Torre could actually fix his mouth and say it's okay for a white liberal to call a black conservative, a black ICE agent, the House N-word with the hard R. So if that's okay, then that word means nothing. And that whole race thing is not even a real thing, because it's if I agree with you or not decides if I belong in your little clique. The other thing, when you're talking about the Haitian American, that was the thing that throws me off too. Within the black community, do you know how frustrating it was for me growing up? Oh my goodness, it was so frustrating. Because me being born, raised in New York, and people would speak, and I won't even say then, because I feel like, and I was going to say that with Mika, there was a point, I remember growing up when race relations weren't crazy like it is now. Yes. Race relations, I think after, like I will always say, after Obama, race relations went crazy.
It got worse.
Because when I was growing up there, we actually had it was a nice, like people were able to get along. It didn't matter if you were black, white. I had a white boyfriend when I was in high school. I had an Asian boyfriend when I was in high school. Like that was not a thing. It was normal. No one was looking at you crazy for these things. Where later it became this whole obstacle. And then I think later on in life was when I started hearing about I'm not American. And that, oh, well, you can't talk to us Black Americans because your family is from the Caribbean. And it used to frustrate me. Well, it started frustrating me since I started doing this. It started frustrating me because I'm like, I only know being Black American. I was born and raised here. This is the only thing I know. I don't know anything about what it is to grow up in Trinidad. I have no clue what it is to be Trinidadian. And the Trinidadians don't accept me because I was born here. Right. So people like me, I can feel what Mika is saying, because people like me, I get frustrated because Black Americans don't want to claim you. Trinis don't want to claim you. My mom and dad gave up their citizenship to be Americans. They don't have dual citizenship. They are Americans. Right. But people will still divide you because they will say, well, you can't speak because you don't understand this experience. I can speak to what it is to be a Black American from 1980 on, because I was born in 1980 and I only know what it's like. I've only lived here. This is the only place that I've lived. So but there's always this division, this crazy division. And it is always frustrating because I think the divisions that they create is so dumb. And when we really come down to it, I personally look at it, y'all know how I look at it. You either saved or you unsaved. That's the only division you need to know. You saved or unsaved. Now the world will say you're either part of the haves or the have-nots. I say you either saved or unsaved. Those are the only things I need to know. That's the only thing I care about. So if people want to say that I'm a sellout for thinking freely, listen, you're not dying with me. You weren't born with me, so I can think however I feel like. And if you're upset about it, that's your business, not mine.
Well, the people are going to find a reason and a way to divide themselves. On the Daily Wrap-Up crew, probably about maybe a month, maybe 2 months ago at this point, there was a African brother from Benin that was on there. And they couldn't understand it, what he was saying. But he was saying, just because you have the same amount of melanin as me does not make you my brother. Right. And they could not fathom it. They're like, wait, what do you mean? But we all like, he was like, no. He's like, I come from a place that had, I think he said somewhere along the lines, it was like 70, 80 different tribes, in this one country. And he was like, the people that are adjacent to us are not my brother and sister. Mm-hmm. Just because we're from the same country. We don't even speak the same language. We don't think the way, we don't believe the way. Our cultures are different. You know what I'm saying? And he came out, when he said it, I was like, finally, somebody. Wow. Because he was letting it be known, like, hey, one, all skin folk ain't kin folk. But two, it's not about how much or how little melanin you have. It's about ideas. That's really what this is about. And in our country, it's really starting to manifest and play itself out in that way. It's really showcasing, the ideas that you stand for. What type of country do you want to live in? And we're being divided along those lines. And I'm glad to see it. Now, when I hear people say, oh, because, Mika's a sellout because, she's a conservative, this, that, and the third, or Celeste, hey, your own family will call you, man, sellout, bootleg, this, that, and the third, because you decided that, hey, I'm going a different direction. I'm good with that. That doesn't bother me. That lets me know, okay, I know where I stand with you. I'm good with that. As a matter of fact, I would prefer, no different than, if there's, some form of racism or something along those lines, let me know up front. I'm good with that.
They don't understand that. Like, why? They don't understand when conservatives say that, right? I say this all the time when I go on liberal podcasts or I talk to other.
You see it, man. I'm a cubby, man. I'm a cubby.
Debates. And I say, well, they're like, well, it's racists that are in MAGA. Okay.
I gotta get to Wrigleyville soon.
And they get upset with me. They're like, you don't care about that? No.
Exactly.
Because the last...
I got a chance to meet Ernie Banks, Mr. Cubs himself. I got a chance to meet him. He signed my hat and my baseball for me years ago.
On my check. There were racists everywhere. Exactly. I can name a ton of them from the Democratic side. You guys like to say that they switched, but I can't fathom how they would switch in 2 years because of the civil rights bill. But nevertheless, they don't understand that. So when you approach them with that whole, I don't care about that. What's the policies? What's in my favorite thing, the tax bill? Okay, what are you trying to tax me on? What are you trying to take? What do you want?
Ernie Banks.
I don't care that he sees brown skin. So do you, because you keep trying to put me in a box. So everybody sees it. Okay, wow, cool. Let's focus on what's actually going to benefit me and my family. And if it's not going to benefit me and my family, I don't vote for it.
And
me and Ernie Banks, Mr. Cubs.
If you really want to look and see, it was actually Black liberals. Black liberals gave up blackness. And there was no other better demonstration of that than the whole Summer of Love 2020 George Floyd. Go back and look at all the cities that had those George Floyd supposedly protests turned into riots. In the front of the line, who was it? White, blue-haired liberals leading the George Floyd marches. Black people, so-called, gave up their blackness in service of liberalism. So don't come back to me now and say, well, wait a minute, where are you? No, y'all gave that up. I didn't want it to begin with, but
just him signing my baseball.
Ceded that to white liberals. So now you're over there with.
So again, in Chicago, I was a security officer. I was a barber, a bartender, and it was fun working in Chicago. But when COVID hit, everything went downhill from there. It was fun getting paid cash, being a barber, being a security officer. When COVID hit, things changed. So it's all good, though. But yeah, I'm in Chicago. Like I said, I live in Rockford. It's all good. Like I get to Wrigleyville. I got to get back to Wrigley this year.
them under their tutelage, and good luck to you. I'm somewhere else, but y'all gave that up.
Well, they also allow that racism word to control them. And I just don't believe in that. I've been around all types of people from all walks of life, and I've had people that didn't look like me that were really good to me, and I've had people that looked like me that wasn't so good to me. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So at this point now, I'm judging you based off of how you present yourself to me. That's what I'm judging you based off of. And I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Hit the like button, share the videos.
I met a few celebrities. I met Paul Gasol. But other than that, I'm gonna get off this, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. Hit the all button, please. And I'll be back tomorrow. I thank you guys. You guys are a blessing. Let's grow together. Common Sense Channel.